Until recently, I didn't know history class was jacked completely. Found my new family with the team going free. My old family doesn't understand me, cause I am so pro-white. No coke, no Sprite, I am rolling with the public, gonna be more white. I saw them twist history right before my very eyes. Insurrection Day, it's in the book and it's all lies. But now I am alive and well to tell it. But will generations down the line be able to sell it? I've always been a thinker on the search for both sides, but they label me an outcast and they cannot tell me why. Guess I'm just a black sheep, white boy who doesn't hesitate to make a lot of fucking noise. On the black sheep, white boy, and I wouldn't change a thing if I ever had the choice. Cause the red's the color I bleed. Yes, we all do bleed red. I have to protect my family. So I love my people. Why does affirmative action make them not hire me? Even in the countries where I'm the minority. Is my race just that awesome and no other could compete? Is that what the anti-whites are trying to tell me? Why am I always seen as such a threat? To the point they want to strip me down till there's nothing left. Old friends from high school, man, I haven't kept one. But I got a new crew and it's where I belong. Cause if you ain't going free, you ain't rolling with me. And there are even anti-whites in my own family. But I am the one who's comfortable to make a lot of fucking noise. I'm the black sheep, white boy. I wouldn't change a thing if I ever had the choice, cause the red's the color I bleed. Yes, we all do bleed red. I have to protect my family. I heard that Scotland is too white, is Nigeria too black? Don't get your panties in a bunch, cause I have the right to ask. See, I'm the black sheep, cause I call it hypocrisy. And the media will give you emotions, but they will not give you honesty. Yeah, you have your feelings, but I have the crime rate. And I'ma shoot to kill if there's a danger my way. So I do not blame the cops, just the ones who are cowards, who hesitate to pull the trigger unless it is one of ours. Cause he's a black sheep, white boy, who doesn't hesitate to make a lot of fucking noise. I'm the black sheep, white boy, I wouldn't change a thing if I ever had the choice, cause the red's the color I bleed. Yes, we all do bleed red. I have to protect my family, so I wanna find people to death.
Drowning in the argument, the anti-white says, what exactly is anti-white? You have got to be animated with the righteous passion of reclaiming our destiny. We are the heroes of this era.
And we are rolling in, going free. How's everybody doing? Can you hear me okay? We are in the castle. Yes, it's RC the Realist's music, ladies and gentlemen, there. And of course, right before that was the legendary Fournol. White Student Transmission is with us in the live chat, and he's rocking it over there on Twitter. Big salute to you, brother. We'll be celebrating you on Sunday for sure. And magnificently done. Great work. Montana Kid is here. Jay Bishop, Matt Mittens, the Thunder from Down Under. And I saw where you wrote that you were having a problem posting. I can only imagine the anti-whites. They're just making things harder and harder for us to be able to participate. There is the great Fournol. I guess just keep trying different ways to say what you want to say. It's not me. There's no restriction there. So the only restriction there is because you wouldn't be saying, I mean, there are a few things that we prevent on the channel. You wouldn't be saying any of those things. So it's got to be the anti-whites at YouTube in flesh or in algorithm. I do see here that when we were rolling out of our, I guess we don't really roll out of our gatherings on Sunday, that the great Fournol, ladies and gentlemen, let's get some raucous emojis for him. He gifted a Ninja Genie over there on D Live Cryptocurrency. God bless you, brother. Thank you so much. He's in the live chat right now. Show him some love. He's the creator of that first song that we played, which was fantastic. I love that song. I could just have that. If I could make the sound, unfortunately on this software, it doesn't really, I would just have that play in the background. But it won't do it in the background. It's gonna be much. Is it much louder than me right now? How am I in relation to the great Fournol playing music in the background? Thank you so much, brother. I don't know how much a Ninja Genie is, but it sounds like it's a lot. Promethean Kitchen is here. Doing no share. I sing with Fournol all the time. I love it. Not awfully louder than you. Well, see, isn't that interesting? Because on this software, I have it turned almost all the way down. I have no idea. What do I have to do? Get out like a megaphone, and just blast into the mic? All right. Misty, hello to you, sister. And let's see. Oh, and over there on hello to anybody who is at Odyssey or on Odyssey today. I do notice that the J-Spurg that we had a little bit of a predictable back and forth with on Sunday has deleted all of his comments. I wonder why that is. Interesting. Entropy is up and running. So if you would like to financially gift over the course of this gathering, you can do so at Entropy. at a cost of 15% to you. That goes to the glorious people running that free speech platform, and we want them to persist. We want them to persist in the great work that they're doing. You may also financially gift in cryptocurrency over there at DLive, as you can see, and cryptocurrency on Odyssey, and also cash dollars on Odyssey. On Entropy, you can also go to the new Tall Kevin widget, which is the chat widget on Entropy, and you can write to me there. I guess you can tag me there, the same as anywhere else on the chat, and it will light up differently for me, and then I'll see it, and I'll see what you have to say. Finally, you may financially gift over at Cash App, which is up and running over to my right, your left. Everybody who financially gifts, who would like to financially gift, you can rappel into the description below, and you will find the links wherewith you may financially gift. When you financially gift, I read everything you write to me, everything you say to me, or at least the gist of it. Otherwise, tag me as No White Guilt while we're together in this roll-in to talk about some interesting. We're going to review some Fox News. Outnumbered is the show with Harris Faulkner. I think everybody else has sort of cycled through this just kind of like a whorehouse. But Faulkner somehow, maybe she is the, what do they call these? The women who run the whorehouse. What is that called? Maybe that's what Faulkner is. At Outnumbered over on Fox. They never seem to get rid of her. Mike is with us. Hello, Jason. Enjoying a beer right now. Cheers to you. Well, Promethean, cheers to you as well, my friend. And what we say is you are enjoying a beer with no white guilt. Whatever you're doing, if you're woodworking, if you're bathing, whatever it might be, you add with no white guilt. Because of the funny meaning there. You got the real meaning that you're trying not to have white guilt, and then you have the other meaning that I'm there with you. So I think we even had the I'm making babies with no white guilt before. And that was a bit awkward. I don't know how his wife felt about that. 0022 is here. Great to see you. Linda, hello, sister. Great to see you. Lavish is with us. Hello, sister. So is Archangel. Great to see you, brother. Says couldn't find the song on the site. Which song are you talking about? The one I was just playing? Guilt in My Heart, if that's what you were looking for. Pipe smoking with NWG. Okay. Elon is looking. He should be. He absolutely should be watching. I would give him some time. If he wanted to speak with me, I would give him some time. I would absolutely give him some time. I'm his equivalent in the socio-political sphere. So if he would like to team up and really change the world, well, I would definitely give the man some time. He has earned it. We're going to be talking today, in addition to maybe the things you all bring up, we're going to be talking today about anti-whites, leftist anti-whites, commie anti-whites, whatever. They're anti-white, right? We're going to be talking about them freaking out over people changing their race now. And it's a very sophisticated psychological warfare that they're using, as it had to be, since you are confronted with a scenario where you're telling the population with your psychological warfare that one can transition from biologically male or born male or whatever they say now. These are mean pathogens, but the ear is against the door. That you can transition away from what everyone would guess if they just looked at you. And maybe if necessary, they would even have to look at you naked. That's not my fault. That's, blame your parents for that, for the bad breeding. But you can transition, and you can even transition into being an animal, as we saw with this Japanese man who had some sort of lassie fetish. And I tell you, when I saw, have you seen the video or the pictures of this lassie? It is macabre. It absolutely reminds me of Pet Cemetery. Somebody went and dug up Lassie and brought her back to life, and she's looking rough. You get it? So, a dad joke, of course. So we're going to talk about that, because that's a big problem for anti-whites, but not one that they won't be able to overcome. When confronted with opposition that they control, when confronted with these airheads that call themselves conservative content creators, these are very easy people to take on. And so it's such an infinitely complex situation, context, but that we are in. And so it's very easy to manipulate people. With us, though, we're going to be able to knock it down. But you're going to be able to see firsthand. We'll describe it. We'll show you exactly how they're doing this. But it's fascinating, the angle that they are taking, and clearly the angle that will work. And with everybody else, but not us. On Fox News, the Outnumbered show with Faulkner, the Madam Faulkner. She and her little crew there of anti-white idiots. These would be conservative anti-white idiots. They were doing their damnedest to stay away, and it was shocking. I didn't get to see the whole discussion. I had the TV on. I was eating, and I turned this, and I was like up just because I was like, what is this? It says across the bottom something about race. Changing your race. It's a thing. It's fascinating. We'll talk about that, and we'll talk a little bit about Donald Trump. And not a lot. We won't go on at length, at least not today. Maybe we'll save that for Jason Goes Political. And also a lot of interacting with all of you. Matt is here, and he's thrown up a swashbuckling flag. Well done. John Doe is here. Great to see you. Let me take a quick look. There's RC the Realist himself. Great to see you, brother. Musician, talented musician extraordinaire. Owning Anti-White Goblins is with us. Shelly is here. Great to see you, sister. Baron White, the new Herculean champion in service to white well-being. Thank God he's on our team. All right. Looks like we're good to go ahead. Dr. Frost has just rolled in. Say hello. Tell your friends. Tell your friends that we're here, because we have things of value to share. I just had the great Mr. V communicate with me an interview of an iconic figure in the white sympathetic sphere that was conducted, during which he is admitting, he doesn't say my name, at least as far as I know, but everything I talk about, it looks like it's exactly what we said. And so you get the answers here. You get the truth here. You get the path to victory. I was thinking earlier in the conversation, and I was thinking earlier about these people want to focus on, like this guy that deleted all his comments. They want to focus on J-spurging. J-spurging, in short, and as I've said many times, I hope this will really reach people, resonate, is the things that your target of your criticisms, belly aching, the things that they do or have done or whatever, you can do nothing about. Nothing. You could do nothing about. And that is evidenced from many, many generations of people trying before you, people with more money and in better populations in the West. Nothing. What you can do is you can ruin your life. And that's why we came up with Ye's Law. But what you actually can do to put an end to our victimization is focus on our victimization. Don't focus on the negativity, on the bad things of some other group. Focus on our victimization. Everywhere you go, every chance you get, you put your foot down and you say, no more victimizing white people. And guess what ends up happening? The discussion then is about victimizing white people. Should it happen? Shouldn't it happen? And then you win. So please, I mean, I don't want to have to wait until like 150 years or something after I'm dead and gone for people to finally say, yeah, that team white well-being, they were actually really right. Let's have some class. Let's see some class from the white sympathetic sphere. For the love of God. All right, we'll go to this article. inside the online world of people who think they can change their race. Let's put it up for y'all to see here. Bing. I had Maximilian von Fock open the door that was in the closet, and now I have access directly through the closet door to the rest of the castle, which of course brings me through many dimensions, and I can arrive at Fornol's castle or Yiz castle. It's a wonderful thing. White people, you know, we do these kinds of things. So let's move this over here. Practitioners of race change to another. Now, this name in and of itself strikes me as king-making, that this would not be what somebody who is really in love with the idea of changing one's race. And by the way, this can be a really heuristic conversation to have with people, especially anti-whites. A really heuristic conversation to have. Just tell them, oh, that you think you're gonna start saying that you are non-white on your applications for loans, for school, for etc., business loans, forgiveness for loans, and on grants and things like this, and watch them come unglued at you being able to take advantage, or wanting to take advantage of all of these superfluous opportunities, these privileges that are given to non-white people, and also folks that are privileged groups, because there are more than just non-white groups that are privileged. They call themselves victimized in the West. You just go ahead and tell them, and I've done this in the past, and watch them come absolutely unglued with how dare you take advantage of all of these benefits across society that we have set aside for them. Oh, but I thought their whole lives were just miserable. I thought it was all discrimination. Where do I sign up? Where do I put down that I'm a white guy? Where do I put down I'm a white guy and then get the loan forgiven, and then get the grant, and then get the slot in school? Where do I write white down and get all of these privileges? Oh, you can't, in fact. So the anti-whites, this is a topic that we can, as a community, as a team, as Team White Wellbeing, we can talk about it. We can bounce back and forth off of each other and find very powerful ways to bring this argument to bear against anti-whites and against vagues out there whom we're trying to bring over. They're confused. They live in the anti-white narrative. And that means that they have this enormous memory of fiction that they believe is reality, of all this discrimination against non-white people. Yes. But we know that none of that's happened. That in fact, and indeed, everywhere you look in the West today, across the totality of the West, there is nothing but preferential treatment, special privileges, and freedom from responsibility for these so-called victim groups. At least that's my opinion. You should check it out with CNN. Listen to other content creators to make sure that you have a balanced view, and then you're not just getting my ideas, which are better than everyone else's. So even though that's happening in the real world, their lived experience by way of fiction is the exact opposite. So broaching this subject, and that's what this reminded me of, is all these times over the years that I was being a wise ass. I have been a wise ass, and it's happened a time or two, and would bring this up and would watch them flail. They're like fish out of water, just coming unglued, and they can't breathe, and they really get stuck. There's like a psychotic break that you can see take place in their heads when they're like, wait, no, they do nothing but suffering, but if you say you're one of them, then you get all this preferential treatment. Head explode in front of you. Oh, those were the good old days. Maybe I'll share some of the stories. There was a girl. Oh my Lord. Oh my Lord. You know how females can really lose it. Yeah, she lost it. Hair bouncing around crazily. So that's what we were. Northwest is here. Great to see you. Trigger warning. Yeah, they really just. Yeah, go ahead. Yeah, reparations. Yeah, go ahead and say, you know what? I think this reparations thing actually sounds pretty good because I am now transitioning to being a black woman. Like if I can change my sex, then I can also change my race. So I'll be a black woman, and my lineage goes all the way back, one side of my family, all the way back, and I can just take advantage of this massive. I want the millions. Watch them come unglued. But you, in every one of these cases, remember, we're different. We are the adults in the room. We have fun. We laugh. But when we trigger and cause some anti-white to come unglued, we're doing it because we are communicating the concepts to the world that changes the world we live in. Yeah. So we don't continue to suffer. Like, what good will it be? I don't want to live in a world where I'm in this powerless position and have to just like poke this victimizing bear and have a snicker, you know. I don't want that life. I want that girl on the floor in front of my fireplace so that I can put little white babies, naked little white babies down on there and get pictures of them, their pretty little butts sticking up in the air. That's what I want to do with the anti-white bear. Make a rug out of his ass. So that's why we're doing this. Keep that in mind at all times. I know that the other way gets more clicks and more attention and more money, but we're not. We are fixing the world. So the first thing that strikes me is this name, and I think it's, if I had to guess, this is my first time coming into contact with it. This is king-making. In other words, there probably are people or were people who were of the mind that they could change their race, and in various ways to be able to do that. All right. And they had a different name for it. They had a more persuasive name for it. They had a more memorable name for it. They had a less crazy sounding name for it. Yeah. So you have practitioners of race change to another. I mean, that's like this incomplete sentence that just, it's terrible. And then they say RCTA. RCTA. Well, what's RCTA? Nobody's going to remember RCTA, right? Race change to another. Why not just race change? Why not race transform? So many others, I'm sure. So king-making, the anti-whites come along. They see something they don't like. So then they cripple it with a name that's probably already being used by some idiot. And they give it air. And that's how it happens most of the time. I know it's very easy for midwits to say that everything is created, like they sit down and they're like, well, let's just from scratch, we're going to just write out what this is going to look like. That's not how it happens almost all of the times when it comes to psychological warfare. They instead find something that's already out there and then they give it air. They give it money. They give it popularity. Sound familiar? Sometimes they co-opt. Most of the time they don't have to. They can manipulate from at least one rung away. The dumbest thing that they do is when they have to insert agents. That's the lowest caliber manipulation. So race change to another. Purport, and this is, we're reading from NBC here, purport to be able to manifest physical changes in their appearance and even their genetics to truly become a different race. There is another, what I believe is most likely, the manipulation of a community of people who believe they can change their race or identify as another race, just like somebody believes that they can change their gender or their sex or become one imaginary gender. I mean, there are many genders out there that heretofore did not exist. Okay. So at least to my education, I mean, maybe I had a poor education. It was all this dichotomy where I was, but let's just say heretofore, a brand new, an imaginary gender, and they were probably thinking about it in the sense of, just like they do, just like people who transform from one gender to another, or they behave and they want people to treat them as a different gender, a gender that doesn't even exist. These people, they're probably the biggest part of the community of those who believe that they can change their race, believe they can do it by way of identifying. I've always felt more of a common bond with this non-white group, or whatever it might be, this other group of people. I've always felt a pull, a magnetic pull for them. I feel like I know what it's like to be them. This would be the most obvious. Indeed, first, because that's what's most prevalent. This is the path that most people take. I feel it in my heart. This is what I see in my mind as myself. It's the most prevalent. It's indeed ubiquitous when it comes to this, isn't it? Number two, the other reason why the vast majority of these people who believe that they can be a different race, the vast majority of them would be attracted to what is incentivized, what works. So it works to say, I feel as a female, or I feel as a male, or I feel as somewhere in between, or I feel as neither. I feel as, on and on. Yeah. So that would be the obvious route to take. Now, that's a problem for anti-whiteism, a big one, because even though the narrative that we have to live under presents us with this idea that the white race is all evil and it's always harming and it's always harmed and thieved and oppressed and exploited, the lived experience of every single person is the exact opposite. That non-white people have access to preferential treatment, special privileges, and freedom from responsibility, while white people are burdened, victimized with white guilt and the incessant demand that they make amends, endless amends that you can never atone for. You can only ameliorate the ache that you have from the victimization of hearing about how awful you and your people are, that inescapable seed inside of you. So, as a consequence, if white people can change, they will begin white flighting into other races. How do we know that that's the case? Well, first of all, we just presented the disincentivization of being white. It's a burden to be white. It's awful to be white. I mean, we can say, I love being white. I love being a Westman. I mean, let's use the proper word, Westman. I love being a member of Western kind. We can say that. We can say, I love the dignity. But when it comes to living in the modern world, where you have the anti-white narrative everywhere you go, every second of your life, nothing could be worse than being white. Nothing. And nothing is worse than being a white male. And nothing is worse than being a fair-featured white male who is masculine. I mean, that's like the worst of the worst of the worst. And if you wanted to tack on anything else to that, you could say a Southern accent, a British accent, or a German accent. That's like the worst of the worst of the worst of the worst. Life, where it intersects with lived experience, is wretched. That's the reality. And we see as a consequence white people white flighting into any other identity that's out there. And it might be that, and you saw this a lot in America, and it probably happens in Canada. Maybe our Canadian brothers and sisters, Australian brothers and sisters could tell us. But in the United States, years back, you're talking about like 50s and maybe even before. Yeah. white people would say that they are some portion American Indian, to try to disclaim, to disavow being white. Some part of me is good. The rest is evil, but some part of me is really good. So they would always choose the names of American Indian tribes that were in the movies, because they didn't know all of the hundreds of tribes of American Indians. There was no like lesser name tribes. They didn't go out like hunting. They were like, oh yeah, Cherokee, that's in the family. It's like every single white family in America has one of these stories. More or less, they've got one of these stories. There's the white flighting away from being white. The white people do this in many ways, though. They can white flight away from being white to be a Southern Baptist or a Catholic. Anything where they can say, my race is immaterial, I really don't care. A Mormon, or a metalhead into heavy metal music, or a skateboarder, or a surfer, anything else. So if you provide white people the opportunity to white flight into being one of the victimized, privileged groups, victimized in the narrative, privileged in the real world. You see how this works? If you can white flight into that, my God, the number of white people that will stop being white, it would be millions. It would be absolutely millions. How do I know this? Because it was millions and millions, and just about every white family has a story of, well, we're not all white. We're also Cherokee or Blackfoot or whatever the races are. I don't care. They would do the exact same thing. You would have the vast majority, probably 90% of the white race, would white flight to some degree or another out of being white into being another race. If you could just say, I identify as that. Just like works perfectly every day, and they're celebrated. Their flags go up at the UN. They replace every flag from planet Earth. A little crazy with that, right? So get on board. You can stop having to feel all this awful white guilt if you can, and stop having to make amends. Stop having to lie down on your back. Stop having to get down on your knees. Stop having to bend over at the waist. You can start getting the promotion you deserved. You can start getting the job you deserved. You can start getting into the school you deserved. You can start getting the grades you deserved while you were in school. Because now you're a member of one of these other races who in the narrative is endlessly put upon and victimized, and they can't get ahead in the world. But then in the real world is bequeathed endless bounties, cornucopias of preferential treatment, special privileges, and forgiveness from, or freedom from responsibility. 90% of the population would go just like this. And it would be seen as to be a total idiot to remain white, to continue to go out into the world and say that you're white. Well, who would do that then? Think about the parsing of the fruits of victimizing Western kind. Oh my God. The black population would suddenly be like 40% of America because they're the angelized group. So everybody would be, there would even be other non-white groups that would, brown flight into claiming to be black. Or if yellow, I think this article actually uses the word yellow for Asian people. I find it very just disgusting. It absolutely chafes with my nature. But they would yellow flight into being black because the huge benefits there to being a part of the angelized group. As we've pointed out before many times, with as many good black people as there are in the world, and we got many good black people in service to white well-being and doing their damnedest to help keep America a good, strong, wonderful place. With as many of them, you can't escape the reality that you have about 5.5%, 6% of the population are black males. And then you have to subtract from that all the ones that are children, all the ones that are senescent, senior citizens, all the ones that are sickly in hospital, At home, they are wheelchair bound, whatever they can. And then all the ones that are in prisons, and everyone knows around the world that American jails are full of black males. And the reasons why they're there, that's what's up for conversation, according to the anti-whites, but not whether or not there are a lot of them in jail. And then you have an even smaller number, and yet they're everywhere. You can't go anywhere and not see black guys and have the conversation about how do they feel about this? How do they feel about that going on? So if you could, white flight or brown flight or red flight, if that was, used for American Indians ever, or yellow flight, like this article does for Asians, over into being black, the people would be doing it. Oh, they would be definitely doing it. As you can see, that would be a big problem for anti-whites and anti-whiteism. So what do they do instead here? We've already pointed out just at the very beginning of this article that you have some king-making when it comes to the name of the endeavor to identify as a member of another race. They have king-made this ridiculous race change to another. They have given that breath. They have given the people, content creators, who you might guess would be, I don't even know, I don't look at it, but they've given the content creators that use race change to another the views. It's all controlled now. I mean, come on, give me a break, right? They've given them the views. They have the audience. They're making the dollars from it. They've king-made race change to another as a name. And then, instead of allowing this community, this sort of inchoate community, to grow along the train of thought that we can have experiential expression and just identify, rather than allow them to do that, which would undermine the anti-white narrative. Why would it undermine it? Because the goal is to victimize white people. Do you see how they reveal their real objective? This happens all the time. If you are intelligent enough to see it, or bright enough to heed those who are, you'll notice this happens all the time. And so you have it happening right here. That would undermine their ability to victimize the white race, because in the end, no one who is actually white would identify as white. There would be too few. The whole edifice of anti-whiteism would have to be changed. And they're not gonna do that. So instead, they're going to force this thing like a gardener will force a vine to grow a certain way. Maybe you have an arbor and you want the vine to grow perfectly over the arbor. So you've got this like beautiful, during the spring or summer, whenever the particular, say it's wisteria, and the summer, and it's gonna drop these big beautiful flowers. You train it. That's what they're doing with these people. They are preventing them from taking the obvious successful route to achieve their objective of being something other than they are. And instead, they are training them in the direction of, oh, these people, they believe that a physical transformation takes place by listening to music, that their genetics change. Now, do you see, as I begin to say this, how unpalatable that is for the vagues in your life? This is what it's aimed at. They need to target the vagues because they need to continue to propagandize them. And you'll know when they don't care about the potential power of Western kind when they stop propagandizing us. So imagine telling a vague in your life that this community, or the vague in your life hearing this, that this community, they want to be a different race, but they believe that genetically they change by way of listening to music. Immediately, the vague would reject that as not commensurate, not a continuation, not comporting with the transformations that they are being told are capable of being achieved. You see how this is a very sophisticated endeavor by anti-whites to control what otherwise, what there were people out there over the years who said, oh, they can't go the trans route. They could never do it because of this sort of spur that people would want to change races. If you could change sex, then you could change race. If you could change to a different species, then you could change, and that's going to be officially recognized in order to white erase, in order to victimize Western kind. That's going to be recognized. Then you have this problem of people being ready to change race. Well, it's not a problem for them. And these people who made these claims, when it interacted with me, they were claims that were made in objection to the Go Free method. I was saying, no, they'll be able, these psychological warfare warriors, strategists, devious bastards working for the anti-white oligarchs, they will be able to overcome that obstacle. That's why we have to go free of their story. You cannot stay in it. So you see right from the very beginning how it is immediately off-putting. Since before she hit double digits, Elisa, 15, said she has felt a special connection with Japan. Now, keep in mind everything I just told you and how perfect it would have been for this young girl if she had been able to just simply identify, and then it would be done. Throw on some Asian, traditional Asian clothing, maybe some samurai clothing, perhaps, and then just say that she's Asian. Said that she has felt a special connection with Japan. The high school student, who asked to be anonymous for fear of being doxxed online, was born in Ukraine, probably an absolutely beautiful white young girl, probably on her way to being a beautiful, like so many of our sisters from Ukraine, a beautiful woman. But why would she want to be another race? Not just going to pass that question over, are you? Like, why is this happening? Why would she not want to be this gorgeous, this rich heritage with totality of the West, and specifically Ukraine in particular? Why would she not want to manifest that? Anti-whiteism. She hates herself. She hates her identity. In fact, I should pull up, I have a video of a little girl from Instagram. I should find it. And I think she is maybe a quarter non-white. She could be white. It was kind of a blurry on the screen, but she's arguing with what you can tell off camera is a little bit older black girl, and this little white girl is saying she's not white. She's not white. Look at this piece of paper or whatever it is, or this object that is white, and then look at me. I'm not white. That had nothing to do with in that argument, and that disavowal has nothing to do with whether or not, my arm is the same as the paper. Her arm is the same as the paper. She doesn't want to be a white person, because we learn this from the moment we can begin putting words together, that we are evil and that we bear this burden that we have to make amends for the totality of our lives. And so she's not the first little white girl that I've seen on video, and even in person, crying and screaming about having to be white. So that happened to this Elisa. Nobody's saying, well, my God, why would she want to be a different race? No, not a word there. Not a question there. Not even from Madame Faulkner over there. Not all those females that were there. Not a single word, as far as I know. I mean, I didn't get it. We'll watch it together. It's a short segment. And she doesn't want to be doxxed online because she'll be hated. She'll be hated for being a devil that's trying to escape the just retribution against white people. This is really what we're living in. This is the hell we're living in. This is the hell that's being bequeathed to children. This is where I start getting really upset. with people in the white sympathetic sphere who continue to ignore, have ignored and do everything they can to undermine me and Team White Wellbeing, because they don't accomplish shit. They never have, and they never will. I shouldn't, that's a bit of a hyperbole. They do make these, small gains, and they do provide people who object to things with some information. But we have revolutionized the day. We are like the printing press showing up. We are the internet showing up, revolutionizing the resistance to anti-whiteism, and it's fucking crickets from these people. And what ends up happening? You got this little girls who are white screaming about how they're not white. Little girl says, "I'm not white." And then the black girl is saying, "You are white. You are white." And the little girl says, "No, I'm peach. I'm not a member of that evil group. I'm this new group that she made up because she's a little girl called Peach." Sickening. All right. Didn't want to be doxxed. Born in Ukraine, now lives in Maryland. But she goes by the Japanese name, Mayuki, and listens to subliminals. Now, here's where these crazies, now she's getting attention. She's getting airtime. What are the race changers getting that say, "Oh no, I just feel it in my, I don't think I can actually change my DNA, but it's true for me"? What are they getting? Suffocated. They're getting silenced. They're not getting talked to. They're not getting audiences. Do you see how this works? So far, she believes that by listening to YouTube videos with lo-fi music and photos of East Asian facial features while she sleeps, her vision has cleared. Her eyeballs have become smaller, and her hair is just a bit darker. It's probably a beautiful blonde. She's probably a beautiful blonde. I mean, this is such a revolting... this is absolute demonic. Absolutely demonic. Now, I do want to toss in there that many years ago, I used to hear anti-whites. It was rare. It was rare, but it still would surface every now and again. Maybe some of you have heard this. Please share if you have. But a long time ago, when anti-whites really were making the argument that race is not real, one of the proofs that race isn't real is that when you live with another race and or live in their environment, eating their food, listening to their music, seeing them daily, that you genetically begin to transform. And so it's proof that human beings are these malleable things that if exposed to this or exposed to that, become something different. And so this was something that surfaced every now and then. It was rare because it's so insane. But it is part of the stock and trade of anti-whites and their endeavor to use any excuse, any idea, no matter how obscene or ridiculous, to get to the objective of victimizing Western kind. And I think that so somehow this might have a little bit of a seed in that. But it would have never been big. It would never have been the dominant idea for the race changers if it wasn't given life by professors, media, etc. Now you watch. There will be a politician who will talk about this. And he or she will frame it as a manipulation or changing of the DNA and how ridiculous that is. They'll say, you'll see a conservative politician or content creator for sure saying, well, we got these people saying that they are able to feel that they are a different gender, or a gender that doesn't exist for the rest of us, or a different species. And now we've got the race changers who think they can actually change their DNA, and they'll push what the anti-white psychological warrior generals want them to push. That's why if you're a conservative, patriot, or whatever, you need to stop listening to those people, or you need to start correcting them, and you need to start correcting that community. Practitioners of what they call race change to another, RCTA, purport to be able to manifest physical changes in their appearance and even their genetics to become a different race. They tune into subliminal videos that claim can give them an East Asian appearance or Korean DNA. Now, do you see the other problem for anti-whiteism? The other problem is that in one of the anti-white arguments about, or I should say, like a argument set, is that there are no races, and so therefore defending your race as a white person is totally illogical. This is another reason why whiteness, the anti-white slur whiteness, should never be used, because that says that the identity of being white is something that you just think up. It's just a construct. Now, mind you, you can turn this on anti-whites, and I've done it a lot, where you can say, okay, my people is a construct, and I choose to defend them, just like people who are identifying as a sex other than the way they were born, and there are many constructs that anti-whites use. But it is something else. So that's why they have to go over and control this. And they will, trust me. Experts underscore that it is simply impossible to change your race. It is just belief, said Jamie Cohen, an assistant professor of cultural and media studies at Queens College, City University of New York. It's just a belief, like the people who see themselves as a different gender. But it's okay, right? That's different. It's just a belief. It doesn't ever really work because it's not doing anything. But they have convinced themselves that it works because there's other people who have convinced themselves as well. Really? So you're making the exact argument that some folks make about Transformers. The exact same argument. So is Jamie Cohen hypocritical when she turns around and said, or he turns around, whatever it is, turns around, and, I mean, really today, turns around and says that, oh no, it's totally legitimate when, and then says the exact same verbiage. Are they hypocritical then? If you said yes, you have growing to do, but that's okay. That's what we do here. It would be hypocritical if they didn't have the same objective in both cases. But they have the same objective in both cases. And so therefore it's not hypocritical. And that objective is to victimize Western kind. You're welcome. Though they do not constitute a full-blown trend, this is the playing down of how many of them are participating, a number of racial subliminal creators have popped up on YouTube in recent years. And if it becomes a bigger problem, if they can't control it, which they can, really, then they'll just ban creators. But it'd be so easy just to take the ones that are saying your genetics change and then give them the big audience. Everybody will see the big audience, and then they will go to participate. They have the answers. They look how big their audience is. And then give those people the super chats. And then suddenly, they're out there with a new car. Other content creators that want to get involved, they look at that. That's the way to go. You see how easy this is? People are just dumb animals, the vast majority of them. With videos racking up on average over 500,000 views apiece. On TikTok, dozens of accounts have emerged in recent weeks, sharing similar goals and aesthetics and documenting what people describe as their race-changing journeys. What did I just say? I didn't even read this. I just said that, and now, whoa, so there are a bunch of content creators who are now jumping in on the bandwagon of popularity and praise, aggrandizement, and money. And all they have to do is say that genetically they're changing. Wonder if they'll go that far. Media experts also point to the potential dark side of the exoticization of Asian culture, saying it could be a form of modern yellow face. So that's how they were using it. I knew I saw that as I scanned through their yellow. Or the act of non-Asian peoples making their appearance more Asian-like. Oh, so you're trying to steal the identity of Asian people if you do this. So what does that make you? Oh, see how this works? Whose demon is the racist? Whose demon is that? What story does that come from? If I were to ask you, whose bad guy is the stormtrooper and the Darth Vader, you're going to be able to say Star Wars. You know the story. Whose demon, whose bad guy, whose villain is the racist? The anti-whites. Because that's the story we're forced to live in. Korean-American poet Margaret Rhee. Okay. Rhee! An assistant professor of media studies at the New School in New York, said the RCTA phenomenon reflects the current media climate in which East Asian media enjoys widespread popularity internationally and in the U.S. There's also the underbelly of that where we want to be careful, she said, because there's always a problem around fetishization. Having a hard time with those words today. Or objectivization. They keep throwing them at me. That East Asian cultures have always been subjected to. Oh, always subjected to. You mean inside the anti-white narrative? Meaning being revered for these kinds of exotic characteristics, but not really fully seen. Of course, something that makes no sense whatsoever. That's indefinable and can mean anything and everything an anti-white wants it to mean. My people aren't seen. What does that mean? Anything I want. Race as a construct. Experts agree race is not genetic. Oh my God. That's why when black families adopt white or Asian kids, they grow up black. That's why, like, what is this? Barrett on the Court adopts the black kids. They're Snow White. They got a nose just like mine, forehead like mine. Everything is this hair like mine. Everything is the same because it's not genetic. I'm glad. I mean, remember, this is why we don't indulge anti-whites and the anti-white narrative. This is something I saw as a very young man in high school. I saw experts, adults that had gone to the best universities and had the best degrees, and the media, the people in government, different levels of government, writers, they would refer to these people. These people would speak, they would write their own books, and they would say the most insane things. And as long as it was anti-white, they were golden. They would get rich. They would be on TV. They would be on commercials. They would be given lectures at universities. But if they said something crazy that in any way contradicted anti-whiteism, they were destroyed. They were ignored. They were obliterated. They were defamed. And so I figured it out. The expertise, the skill, the training, the education, it's totally immaterial. It's completely immaterial. They could have any quack come forward and make these kind of claims. And that's indeed what these people are. And they stand up there using their academic credentials. The problem is that their academic credentials work because you continue to validate academic credentials. You continue to want to have the speaker at the conference or the writer, your bookshelf covered in books that are written by academics. As long as you continue to make this, to conclude that being an academic peacock, having an effete, wimpy, wussy set of mannerisms, no masculinity whatsoever, as long as you continue to have this mindset, you continue to validate their use of academic experts. And this endless, and I told Jared Taylor many years ago, many, I was a very young man. We can't have a competition between our academics and their academics, especially if you're using their language, because their academics have the force of the church, the government, the universities. They hold the highest positions. They're the deans. They're put on these special groups to remedy the problems in society, and the media talks endlessly about it, and the government refers to it. How can you have a competition? If you honor a metric that they're using, they will beat you with their ruler. If you honor their ruler, and this is where conservative content creators up all the time, trying to own the libs or the wokies or whatever by the standards, by the metric, by the yardstick that the anti-whites create. They say, here's the yardstick, and if you behave like this, you're a racist. And then these conservative content creators think they own the anti-whites, lefties, wokies, whatever, think they own them by saying, well, look, according to your metric, according to your yardstick, you're being racist there, and I'm not, so I'm better than you. They just take the stick and they shove it up your ass. You never play by their moral edicts. You never engage by their moral code, for fuck's sake. Stop putting faith in academics for academics' sake. That doesn't mean that somebody can't be kick-ass and have a great education. It just means that the education doesn't mean shit. It just means that you can't say he or she is good because they have all these degrees, because their degrees will never match up to the experts the anti-whites will present. Does that make sense? If I could walk on water and people would just adopt this shit, we'd have won already. I guess I'm gonna have to start working on that. I can explain things again and again and again, but the mid-wits out there, they just can't get it. And obviously the midget wits are just drooling over in the corner, trying to find where the corner goes. That's why they keep walking into it head first. You got to get rid of also this idea that if a guy's masculine, and this is given to you by the anti-white narrative and all of their media, and remember, that's your genuine life experience, because your subconscious mind doesn't know. When in media, entertainment media, has the genius, the thinker, the problem solver been a masculine man, as we have seen throughout the West's actual history? Doesn't happen. The role is always given to some emaciated and wimpy, and very reminiscent. You see that the Jewish filmmakers will very often cast Jewish actors in the role of the genius, and that definitely does not look like the masculine, heroic man of the West, Westman, that we actually had lead us in the past. It gets people looking to them for answers. And for decades now, we've seen that role has been given to every other non-white group and females. It's just never given to somebody like me, for example. Somebody who is masculine and heroic. No, they never give that role. No, that's not the thinker. No, that's the guy who's just going to go out and he can go fight and die for you. That's all he can do. And as I've talked about before, and we should revisit from time to time, no confrontational, successful, maybe I should just drop it there and then attack strategy on there. Strategy is going to come from an emaciated wimp who has to retreat and apologize, etc., in person. They can never stand their ground. You are only going to be able to get a strategy that will defeat the opposition from someone who can stand his ground. Never from some little wimp, little like book sniffer. Experts agree race is not genetic, but they contend that even though race is a cultural construct, it is impossible to change your race because of the systemic inequalities inherent to being born into a certain race. Talk about utter nonsense. So, race is not genetic, but you're born it. You're born a specific race because of the anti-white narrative that is existing in the world before you're born, before you pop out. It's a pretty interesting argument there, laden with horse shit, just total nonsense. They contend that though race is a construct, it's not genetic, it's impossible to change your race. And then you can even pause right here with that next little part there. You can't change it because in the essentially what they're saying is because our story says you can't. If they wanted to be really honest, our story says, since you look this way, you're born this way, you play the villain in our story. You're the bad guy. You're the oppressor. You're the exploiter. You can't change your role. So even though the way you were born is not a result of a biological blueprint, and rather is a consequence of constructs in society, you still can't change it by just leaving what's a construct is a set of ideas and outcomes of ideas. So you can't just change your ideas and be it, even though that's exactly what a construct is. So you can see them reaching here. White Girl says, Cool Papa, I guess that's Cool Papa J Magic, comments you are posting on YT vids about no white guilt methods. Yes, well, there he is right there. Great to see you, brother. True champ. We love you. And White Girl, welcome to you, sister. I'm going to see what you all are saying, and so I can keep you in the conversation. But here we have David Freund. David Freund, a historian of race. And in other words, an anti-white storyteller. Historian of race and politics, and an associate professor at the University of Maryland College Park. In other words, the ghetto. Don't be there when the sun goes down. Corroborates the idea. Oh, he corroborates. Now we have two experts corroborating the idea that a biological race does not exist. Doesn't exist. Wow. You know, if I were to pair with a white woman with blonde hair or brown hair or red hair or black hair, the baby is coming out white. Sorry, Freund. It's coming out white, and we know this. It's not going to come, and it's not going to come out another race. It's going to come out a Westman, either as a little boy or a little girl. And you, the moment that that child begins to grow in the woman's belly, are automatically condemning him or her for being white. God, the anti-whites, please, we need God himself to witness to Elon Musk and anybody else out there with money and power to come down and scoop me up with your helicopter and take me wherever I need to be taken so that we can begin to strategize and lay out the plan to destroy anti-whiteism before it destroys the West and the world. Unbelievable. What we know today as race is a combination of inherited characteristics. What now? Inherited characteristics that are not genetic, I guess. So how do I inherit them? Why do I come out looking like I do? When I was birthed, I was swinging my fist and I was white and I had a big old head and I was swinging my fist, punched myself twice in the face and head, had a bruise I had a knot on my head from where I punched myself and had a black eye from where I punched myself in the face. And the doctor was like, "Whoa, your little boy's beating himself up." That's because I was a fighter, motherfucker. That's why. I came out fighting. How many babies come out fighting? I came out fighting. So how did I inherit all of this nature if it wasn't by genetics? Combination of inherited characteristics and cultural traditions. How did I inherit those? Oh, so maybe he's saying that like later in life, like maybe I'm 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, and then as I'm getting older, I go from, say, being Vietnamese to white because I'm inheriting and I'm learning the traditions. Is that what he's saying? Maybe that's it. Oh, damn, my phone's about to die. Passed down through generations, he said. Wow. Well, that's pretty interesting. Bullshit is what it is. Pretty interesting bullshit. Pretty unsurprised that it's coming from the University of Maryland. In addition, Freund said the modern concept of race is inseparable from systemic racial hierarchy, hundreds of years in the making. So this is where it comes to, see, it should be able to be just generic. Like, this is your crazed, illogical understanding of race, but that's not all there is to it because we're in the anti-white narrative. So the whole concept that's being communicated funnels you down to, vectors you to, white people are evil. And yet your Republican politicians, your conservative content creators, they won't talk about race. It everything that's harming us angles us, vectors us, funnels us to whites are evil and therefore revenge needs to be had upon them. But your Republican and your conservative politicians and your conservative content creators won't mention that fact. That's all of the victimization. Kind of makes you wonder. So it's inseparable from systemic racial hierarchy, hundreds of years in the making. Simply put, changing races is not possible because biological races are not real. If they're not real, Why can't you change them? You see how they're struggling? Freund here is having a hard time. A little slippery, slick Freundy. It's not Slick Willie, it's Slick Freundy. See how he's trying to and having a hell of a time? There are no races. Races are just ideas. But you can't change the idea that of what you are as a race because white people are evil. So you know who he's talking to. Anti-whites here won't have a problem with, say, unless it is influential or influences white people. But they wouldn't have a problem if there's some black person saying they're Asian or some Asian person saying they're Arab. They couldn't care less. The problem is, and I'd be willing to bet, you look over at these channels, it's white people who are trying to white flight into being Asian. So that's their problem. They have to nip that, and they got to control that, and they've got to control the narrative of that endeavor as it is told to the rest of the population. Freund added that this is, I mean, can you imagine if somebody came to your house trying to sell you a vacuum, trying to sell you on a cleaner, and that was the kind of logic they used? You would immediately know, or illogic, you would immediately know that you're in the presence of a hardcore shyster, and you would pick his little ass up and you would throw him out on the lawn. Freund added that, and you can see here with the rest of this article, again, why aren't your conservative content creators talking about this? Freund added that the idea of changing one's race operates differently depending on a person's racial background. Oh, I was actually just saying that they wouldn't care if it was like a black person becoming an Asian. And that white people who seek to transition, now all of a sudden transition's put in quotes, to other races, can often sidestep the harms of racism. So, what did Freund, the anti-white POS, just say to you? That if white people are allowed to white flight into being a non-white race, anti-whites won't be able to victimize them anymore. They escape the label of racist, which they have to prove that they are not every day of their lives. We're going to go on to the next story. I think Kevin Nadal, a professor of psychological at City University of New York, said, quote, "There's a privilege in being able to change your race or to say that you are changing your race. There are many people who would be unable to ever change their race, particularly black people in this country." Oh, so it's victimizing black people, the angelized group. God, their psychological warfare is so scripted and expected when you're using the go free method. You can see it. That's why I said you can retrodict everything, predict everything perfectly with the go free method. The poor black people in this country would be unable to say all of a sudden, I'm white, and be treated with the same privileges that white people have. Total hogwash, anti-white narrative nonsense. No black person would give up. No sane black person is going to say, no, I'm not black. I don't want all of these preferential treatment, set-asides, freedom from responsibility. I don't want any of that. I don't want the grants. I don't want the forgiveness for loans. I don't want the business loans. I don't want the government where the government requires so many companies that are hired have to be owned by black or owned by other non-white people. I don't want access to any of that. I'm white. I want to feel white guilt. I want to have to repay that for the rest of my life. I want to have to shoulder the lion's share of the tax burden of the country. No fucking black person is going to say that. So there you see it. There you see these anti-white, just absolute human waste of creatures. All right. And then you have, what is it? Certain people of color throughout history have been able to pass as white to survive. So what you have is you have non-white people, in other words, and you've seen these people that pass as white over the years, and you could definitely tell. And certainly the white people of those times could definitely tell, oh, this guy, nah, or that woman, no. But what was the thing that enabled them to participate in the rest of society? The way they behaved. They adopted, and either, whatever degree of it was genetic, whatever degree of it was just willpower, the expressions of Western kind, the norms of Western kind, etc. And therefore, they were able to participate because everybody could see. I always laugh when they're like, this person, I saw it all the way back in junior high school. This person was only given a reprieve because of they passed as white. And then you look at them and you're like, what? No, not if not today, definitely not then. Are you kidding? In virtually every single case. So pure non. So let's take a quick look at. Okay, I didn't miss anybody on entropy, and looks like we have 4 lemons from Spartan over there. 4 lemons of cryptocurrency from Spartan on DLAV. Thank you so much. And 13 lemons from, is that Tim Hanby? Tim, thank you so much. 13 lemons. God bless you. Thank you for that cryptocurrency. And over here on Odyssey, didn't miss anybody. Okay. We'll turn around this way. And we'll make sure we didn't miss anybody. There's the great Lunder says, I would love to hear what Freud has to say about my mother, says Lunder. Well, that opens a question. About Lunder's mother. Almost rhymes. Lunder's Mutter. What is mother in one of our languages? It's pretty close to being able to rhyme with mother and Lunder. Mestizo Carf says, when I was in high school, I remember this white female country girl that was a black girl dancing saw a black girl dancing and said, quote, I wish I was black, close quote. Even during my junior year, that disturbed me. Brother, thank you for sharing that. And I have seen and heard the same thing. I have seen in person white females scream and cry about having to be white. I have seen it on videos. I've seen white people, friends over the years, male and female, complain about being white, wishing they were black. Off the top of my head, I can't think of a time that a white person I knew wished that they were one of the other non-white races. I think it was always black. And there was an occasion of wishing they were a Jewish person. Which is really interesting, Mestizo Carf, because you have the media presents this idea, and it's dying because of like Instagram, TikTok, etc., but presents this idea that and this is one of the mean pathogens, white people can't dance, and blacks are the best dancers. Heard that my whole life. I was able to dance better than almost everyone I knew, and of all races. including black. And I saw other whites that were great at dancing, but this was the actual mentality. And so that's where you get something like this. You have a white girl, she's looking at a black girl who can dance, and it's going to learn how to dance. I'm going to be that good. I'll be better than that by my efforts. She says, wish I wasn't white. Wish I were black. Wish I were a black female then. Time Traveler says, a girl I liked in high school told me that she wished her skin was black. Yes. If folks, you can share those testimonials now. If you said it, or a relative said it, or if someone you knew, a friend or whatever, said something like this, wish they weren't white, or wish they were black, or wish they were Jewish, or wish they were some other race. I think we've all seen it repeatedly throughout our lives. Let's see. Remember to tag me as No White Guilt so that I can see your message. Rick says, had much fun using the No White Guilt tactics earlier tonight. I seriously just won a guy over tonight. Rick, freedom. Awesome, brother. God bless you, man. Thank you for that. Let's get some swashbuckling flag. That's swash right there. Just won somebody over tonight. Won somebody over tonight. Let's get some swash for this guy. Swords and shields. Some swashbuckling flags up. We'll turn on the AC in here. Suddenly, the heat has gone up. That is awesome, Rick. Thank you for your service to white well-being. Swashbuckling excellence. Very cool. Using the no white guilt tactics, using Go Free method. Won somebody over tonight. That is awesome. Owning Anti-White Goblin says, did I tell you the professor's story? No, I don't recall. If you did, make sure you tag me, though. Kingdom of Vinland is with us, says Promethean Hails, Jason, God Emperor of Western kind. Yes, spread that far and wide. The God Emperor has arrived. Okay, I don't think I missed anybody else that tagged me. Elaine is here. She says, hello, everyone. Went to town since we had the power outage. Walking by the beach. I can't really see the chat, but I'm listening. Great to see you, sister. Brian is here asking what's wrong with Jared Taylor. Only that when you provide, when your approach is to tell the world the statistics about how other races are more criminal and other races have lower IQs, and so in other words, being white negative. The data can be useful for the purpose of a conversation about whether or not multiracialism can work where there is such disparate animals, people. But refusing to platform that which you know is changing everything, which is supposedly the objective over there, to put an end to our victimization, is a condemnation in and of itself. It's like, where is Team White Wellbeing? Why aren't they, why aren't there guests from Team White Wellbeing? Why hasn't Fournol been asked to speak? Why hasn't Brand Danger been asked to speak, or other folks who head up with him School of the West? Why haven't content creators, why haven't you have these people in the community in the live chat? They write these testimonials about like world changing, life changing by way of instances, by way of using the Go Free method, and there's no investigation there. There's no, hey, we're on the same path, and so you're doing amazing stuff, let's talk. None of that. That right there is a condemnation. The silence. And there are other things that I'm not at liberty to say. Promethean Promulgation is with us. Irish Nick is in the house. Is in the house of champions. Great to see you, brother. Nancy Drew, hello, sister, and welcome. JK160, what's going on, brother? The real Vincent is with us. Wonderful. Great to see you. Toe, is that Cutter? Great to see you. Dick is with us. Hello, Dick. Bob is here. Welcome, Bob. Spearman is here. Welcome. Baron White says, my friend used to say he had a black granddad and would tell all of our group that. Later, he told me he did it for attention. Thank you for sharing that, brother. Thank you very much. We've all experienced this. And every single one of us, at some point in our childhood, every single, we either care to admit it or not, or maybe you've forgotten it. Maybe it was so much trauma, you've kind of locked it away. But every single white person over the course of their childhood wishes they were another race. It is inevitable. There's no white person that doesn't do that. You would have to be an actual insane person to not do that. All right, let's jump over. I'll keep reading, but I want to go ahead and, well, I'll pull this up in just 1 minute. Let's see if we can find it, though. Oh, that didn't take long, did it? There she is, Madame Faulkner. Head of the whores over there at Fox on Outnumbered. We'll bring her back in just a minute. Thank you, everybody, for celebrating, breaking out the flags and the swords and the fire and the skulls and the shamrocks. And Pear Lady is here. Great to see you, sister. Princess is here. Hello to you, sister. I've been in IRL meetings and get-togethers, conferences, and the like, and I've brought up the fact that we're so victimized that we end up wishing that we weren't white. Many of us end up white flighting to other things, making claims like they have a black granddad or Indian granddad or Arab or whatever it might be. And it always amazed me at these meetings, get-togethers, conferences. All these guys would say, and the very few females that would be there, they were like, nope, never, not me. Nope. I mean, talk about being injured and revealing it right away at how injured you are and how insecure you are. There ain't no white child being told your people are evil from all aspects of their lives and coming away from it saying, I'm proud. I'm just a proud white person. This world, whatever. You'd have to be completely mad. Like if you don't know to move, that's like not being able to move away from falling into the campfire. That's how dumb that would be. No, I never learned how to take my hand off the stove. I mean, my mother had to hit me 100 times. I still do it today. Wife has to hit me. Okay, well then I guess it makes sense for you. Everybody else, though, they get it. I see some swashbuckling flags over there on D Live. Thank you very much. Tim and Spartan. Flying swashbuckling flags. Glorious. All right. Keep at your emojis. You're going to have some crowns to drop. You're going to have some gems to throw at the feet. And we're going to give some 007s to one and only a gentleman we just had on for a swash through. No white guilt clips. I hope you were saying that with me at home, ladies and gentlemen. The hero who we can't say enough about, Sunday was with us, that we cannot say enough good about, has shown up even tonight, just a day later, 2 days later from Sunday, 50 white well-being dollars. 50 testimonial, not putting up with any shit dollars. God bless this Herculean champion. And he shares with those $50 in 07. A big 07 to you. A solid salute to the great No White Guilt Clips. Yeah, let's hear it for Clips, folks. Raucous emojis. Have them, break them loose. Shake them up in that box. Shake them up and then release them, you know? I mean, that's what you want to do. If you got, it's like a dog, you can beat it a little bit and get it fired up and then let it go. Break out your emojis. Awesome. Thank you all. Keep them going, though. Keep them going, because we were just having them go for the great No White Guilt Clips. We have another longtime advocate for white well-being, financially gifting a sizzling 100 white well-being dollars coming from Ace, ladies and gentlemen. Let's hear it. 07s, 007s, raucous emojis, crowns for her head, but make them light, gems for her feet. Ace and Clips have arrived. What's magnificent. God bless you. Thank you so very much. The testimonials pour in, and the rest of the white sympathetic sphere, they just get jealous. Thank you both so very much. Wow. High Speed Drifter is with us. LG, hello, sister. And First Last has shown up again. And he's broken out a $5. God bless you, brother. Thank you so much. And great to see you. $5 financial gift while I'm reading the Cash Apps. Thank you so much, brother. He knew. He's like, he's reading it now. I'm going to get in. Great to see you. There's Clips in the live chat. Great to see you, brother. Sandy is with us. Hello, sister. The great Irish Nick. Irish Nick is here. He's celebrating. Thank you so much for the celebration. There's Franklin, the unstoppable, the immortal Franklin. Great to see you, brother. Thank you all for celebrating. Let's see. Rick says, last Friday, my son had his car towed home. I won the driver, over with the No White Guilt lexicon, and my wife marveled at how easily I spoke with him. I won him over and turned him on to No White Guilt. IRL transformation on the spot. God bless you, Rick. That is so fantastic. That is so fantastic that you're, and what a glorious thing to share the testimonial, because then other people are able to see it, and then they're going to say to themselves, "Whoa, could I do that too?" So many of our best heroes saw that other people were using the lexicon, that it was working, and they thought, "I'm going to try it out." And they slowly tried, and then they discovered that they too could have the big victories. Well done. Let's use what Carp says. I also want to point out that the white female gave off the vibe that there weren't many good role models in her life. It's rare to find them in my town. Many dead or moved away. Wow. Terrible. Yes. Sorry to hear that. Thank you for sharing that reality, because that's another life, that another white person's life that's destroyed. This is why we talk about our victimization, why we say no more of our victimization. Another reason why we focus on our victimization rather than on groups of other people is that when we focus on groups of other people, we feed and serve that selfish individualistic nature that in part might be genetic and in part might be taught to us. It might be both, genetic, and then they magnify it because it's the biggest and most profound divide and conquer in human history. You divide your victims not into 2 or into 5, but into their total number. Oh, my God. And it's crazy. You will still hear people say, oh, individualism is our greatest strength. Kermit, no, it's our greatest weakness. It's our most venomous, insidious weakness. Jesus. So you think about it, when you say, like when you see a non-white anti-white attack a white person on a video, and you're like, that group of non-whites is awful, a bunch of things are happening for your thinking, as well as those who are hearing. And that can be a little bit more multifarious, but those who are hearing you. But in your thinking, you are observing the attack as a selfish person thinking about the fact that you might be attacked. The person on the ground has no meaning for you. Now, when you say, oh my God, look at this horrible thing that has happened to this white person, no more attacks on white people, that's going to include you, but it's also going to include all white people. And that begins to weld us together. You see how this works? And yet we still have people like the guy on Sunday show up. Time Traveler, I just remembered that guy Sargon, the atheist YouTuber, not the real Sargon, yes, once lied about having black grandparents. Oh, does he not have black grandparents? He's now said that was not true. Is that correct? Educate me on this. Owning Anti-White Goblin said that he could tell that his older relative was very disappointed that she was not Jewish. Yeah. This is the world we actually live in. You're told every day about how you're so privileged and you have all of these opportunities. And this is the anti-white narrative. And then your lived experience is wishing you were a different race, burdened endlessly by these poisonous anti-white ideas that we call meme pathogens that undermine you physically, mentally, and spiritually, undermine the families you could have, the relationships you could have, the businesses you could start, the advancement you could have in your career, the life you could enjoy, the art you could create, on and on, undermining all of that. And we witness our relatives all the time, our friends all the time, wanting to be a different race, upset that they're not a different race, claiming that they're another race. It is sick. It is absolutely sick. And there's a part in me that has bottomless contempt for people in the white sympathetic sphere who will either push against us and the successes we're having, and therefore the successes we're having, or who ignore us and kill what we're doing here with silence. All right, let's keep rolling. We'll bring up Madam Faulkner. I'm going to keep my eye on the live chat, so we're not going to go anywhere. We also have some great, is that where it is? Yeah. Thread comments to get to. And we'll keep rolling. Let's see what they have to say about this phenomenon of, I'm guessing it's mostly white people, maybe even almost entirely white people, wanting to white flight into another race in this instance, the Asian race. Let's hear how this crew, you got a black woman here, and she normally shows herself to be pretty fair. But what I heard in the little bit that I heard, unless she changes her tune as she works through it, did not sound other than anti-white. And then you got 2 white females, I think. And then I don't know what the other woman identifies as. And then a black anti-white guy, open, and but he's paid by Fox, Richard Fowler.
Been here for a minute.
A stunning new report claims that some people are trying to change their own race. And
okay, can you all hear that? Okay. I'm assuming y'all can. No big freak out that the sound's too quiet.
you won't believe how they are trying to do that.
No way. You're going to make me watch a commercial? Okay.
You could change your hair. You could change your makeup. But some people, they are reportedly taking the idea of a makeover to a new extreme and trying to change their race.
Now, this goes hand in hand. I mean, why isn't Fox coming out strong with the if you can change your gender, you can change your race, they're such hypocrites argument? Fox is going along with, for what I could tell, the psychological warfare operators for the anti-whites. When it's not paused, that's funny.
Wow. New NBC piece explores the growing practice of RCTA, or race change to another. The headline reads, inside the online world of people who think they can change their race. It's being driven by popular online videos known as subliminals, which claim that if you watch them, you will begin adopting physical features of a certain race. Bizarre. The article reads, since before she hit double digits, Elisa, 15, said she has felt a special connection with Japan. A high school student who asked to be anonymous for fear of being doxxed online was born in Ukraine and lives in Maryland. But she now goes by the Japanese name Mayuki and listens to subliminals that promise she will wake up and be Japanese.
Fox is so bad for the resistance to anti-whiteism. Poison.
Terrorist. Seems like fantasy.
I think Madonna went through this. Remember when she had a British accent for a while? Maybe that's
What? Madonna, when she had a British accent? British is white, Madam Faulkner.
it's not a race change. But do you remember that?
I do.
And then it's like all of a sudden start talking about that.
They're from New
I
York.
think this is where we are right now, where you can identify as anything. But if someone's going to identify as a minority in this country, I hope.
All right. This is what I heard of her say here. If someone's going to identify as minority, never use that. Non-whites are not a minority. They will always call themselves, and they will continue to call themselves, minorities long after we are the numerical minority. Minority works. It's a mean pathogen. It works to indicate this vulnerable state, this inability to inflict harm, this position of only being harmed. So we never use that.
Hope that they push for all the change that they start to feel that they.
If they're going to identify as minority, I hope they start to push for all the change. Is there a way to jump back? Yeah.
This is where we are right now, where you can identify as anything. But if someone's going to identify as a minority in this country, I hope that they push for all the change that they start to feel that they.
All the change. What is the change? This is Harris Faulkner, the face of Fox. I mean, it's really her and that Jewish guy. What is his name? Terrible. Everything about him is terrible. Nothing about him is funny. They're the faces of Fox News. And she said, the change. If you're going to identify as minority, I hope you push for the change. You're going to identify as non-white. I hope you push for the change. What's the change? The change that has been taking place within the anti-white narrative is white erasure. That's the change that's been taking place.
They might want in certain categories, that they appreciate the journey that we've made, and
the journey that we've made. What is the journey that they've made? In the real world, the journey has been them permitted to participate to greater and greater degrees in the civilization that we built, and then given preferential treatment, special privileges, and freedom from responsibility. Not all of them, of course. That's been the experience. But in the anti-white narrative, what she's talking about there, their journey has been one against the evil of the white race, the persecution by the white race, the exploitation by the white race. Why would you start a conversation with somebody when that's the basis? Why would you give them that? Why would you yield them this? This is why you cannot at all be inside of the anti-white narrative. Right here, if I were talking with her, I would say, hold on. Did you just say that my people were these oppressors, were these exploiters? That your journey was against the exploitation by my people? Because that's really anti-white and despicable. See, I would object right there. You are making my people out to be this monster, and I reject it. Fuck's sake.
they celebrate and they tell the truth about what it's like to be a person of color.
And they tell the truth. And what does she mean by that? About how exploited they are, how persecuted they are. Like her making several millions of dollars on Fox News a year, whatever the salary ends up amounting to with all the perquisites and everything. Like her. Or like the black guy who's radically anti-white and a Democrat, Richard Fowler, who's hired by Fox.
That this country really is the best on earth. And while we have had, that they actually know.
And there's the conservative line. The country, and then she was getting into it right there. You heard it. This is the best country on earth. And while we have had all this evil done by white people, we're getting better. And eventually the country will be totally white erased. This is your prime time conservative mainstream resistance to anti-whiteism news channel, and it is violently anti-white.
Our story. I'm just curious to know, what is this? Is it just a physical thing, or does it come along with the experience? Because that takes a lifetime.
Okay. There you have it. I wonder if there's footage on her about the transforming from a biological male to female. Does she say that it takes, did she say that it takes an entire lifetime, or did she it's impossible, you're going to be on the mission of women, or did she say all of that? Like she's saying now, if you're going to be one of us non-white people, minorities, then you have to know the journey and you have to be on the journey. You have to be pushing for the journey, and it's a lifetime thing. So you can't do it. You'd already had to have a lifetime of it to be able to change now. And so the only evidence that you are a legitimate race-changed person is how vitriolically how anti-white you are. How acerbically anti-white you are. Push for change. Great country. We've had bad. Everybody has bad. We have bad. Great country, but we're getting to a better place where it's totally white erased.
Richard, Jamie Cohen, an assistant professor at Queen's, said it's just belief. It doesn't ever really work, but it's not doing anything. But they have convinced themselves that it works because it.
Look at this anti-white clown, Fowler. He's foul. He's foul. He's there with his, looks like he didn't have any socks on, with his penny loafers. How cute.
There's other people who have convinced themselves as well.
Yeah, I guess they've convinced themselves that it's worked. I tend to agree with Harris on this. And what I would add to what she said is, like, if you want to wake up to be a black man, I go for it. I just hope that.
Yeah, and this is him. It's called Bluster. And you see it all the time. You see it in fights. You see it in sports. You see it in gambling. It's bluster. He knows that he wouldn't have this job if it weren't for the preferential hiring of black men. He knows he wouldn't have black males. He knows he wouldn't have the job. I don't know if he's a man or not, but he knows it's preferential hiring. He would not have, and you know he's making six figures. He's making more money in probably a decade, at maybe even less, half a decade, than I will make in my life. Think about that. And so it's bluster, it's bluff. Well, if you want to have this hardship that I have, if you want to have this hardship that I have in this six-figure salary, you know, $250,000 salary a year with all the perquisites of being able to fly and be on TV and be famous, and he's probably having tons of sex partners and on, everything that he's getting out of it. If you want to have all that, be my guest. No, what he's doing is he's saying, we live under the anti-white narrative. If you're me, life sucks. If you're a black guy, well, the whole world is against you. Nothing except me and Harris are right here dominating. Harris is the face of Fox.
That you sort of actually live a day in our shoes and understand what that lived experience feels like and looks like, and then begin becoming.
Yeah, put a day in my shoes. I'd like to live a day in his shoes with his paycheck, with the clout, with the pass to go into all the nice places, with the restaurants. They get to know who you are because you have so much money to spend there, and they give you great service. Hotels, the same thing. How about that? How about the health care that he gets to enjoy with all that money and access, and all of the famous people and other wealthy people that he gets to know, other people who have insights on where to invest some of that $250,000 a year income and fame, and an agent that's busily out there looking for you for more work to make you more famous and more money. And then you can meet more people who have tips on, hey, about to open a business here, something good's going to happen there. You're going to want to invest. And then by the time the stock or whatever else hits the rest of the public, it's useless. And the only people making money are people like winning lotteries, essentially. That's the reality of this. And it's sickening. It's absolutely sickening. Because it's my people who created and my people who create Western civilization. It doesn't exist without Westmen. I am an inheritor of it. My inherent talents, my drive, my dues that I've paid. But none of that means shit in the West. None of it means a damn thing in the West. No amount of competency matters for white males in the West. But he wants to pretend like it's so hard on him. And I will tell you this, folks. They're pretending like it's so hard on them in South Africa, where they're calling for the murder of the white population. And I will point out that we watched this video of this party who is in a confederacy with the ANC, stadium full of people, and they are bouncing up and down, saying to kill white people, and he's making the machine gun noise. Maybe the video is fake, though. You should make sure it's not fake that I saw. And he's saying to kill, this is the one that Musk just spoke about, finally, talking about killing. And interesting, isn't it? He didn't speak in one of the tribal dialects. He didn't speak in Afrikaans. He spoke in English. Who was he talking to? You. English is the most widely spoken language in the white race. He's talking to you. All of Western kind. They, across the West, in cities, it's already happening, but everywhere across the West, in all Western countries, will say up to the very last white person how awful it is to be black in this country, how awful it is to be Asian, how awful it is to be Hispanic, how awful it is to be Arab, how awful it is to be Jewish. They'll be saying that to the last white man. Actually, I shouldn't even say that. They'll get rid of white men long before they get rid of white women. They'll keep them around. Trust me. So this is bluff and bluster. And you can see right here, look at, can you see my cursor? As he's bluffing, hey, you want to be a black man? Go ahead. This is a sign that he is aware that he's lying. If I ask him his name, this won't happen with his face. Now, it's contextual. It doesn't always 100% mean this, but contextually, in this case, it means he knows he's lying. His actual opinion, and I'm not talking about objective reality. We just talked about that. His opinion about the world, about whether or not you are harmed by being white and benefited by being non-white, his opinion is that that is indeed the case. They just got, right before this, they looked at the story of Biden wanting to take money away where there is any shooting involved, I guess at universities or whatever. I wasn't paying attention, but it was just another victimization of white people. They just got done talking about a victimization of white people because it's predominantly white people doing this. They didn't just get done talking about an institutional victimization of non-white people by government or by corporations, national or international. They're talking about the government of the United States inflicting injury on white people just before this segment.
An advocate and become a co-conspirator to make sure that lived experience changes, right? And if you're not willing to...
Oh, yeah. So become a co-conspirator. Isn't that an interesting word he just used?
Actually live a day in our shoes and understand what that lived experience feels like and looks like, and then become an advocate and become a co-conspirator to make sure that
an advocate and co-conspirator against the white race, against Western kind. This is Fox News. An advocate and co-conspirator against what? We know. Racism. Who are the racists? White people. What have the white people produced? What have they projected onto the world? That's what has to be destroyed as well. You have to be, if you are going to, according to foul here, and I assume he's mightily foul, that if you're going to be a black guy like me, then you have to be a co-conspirator to take down this system.
Experience changes, right? And if you're not willing to do that, then don't try to be a black man.
And Emily,
and if you're not willing to be a co-conspirator to take down Western civilization and harm the white race, don't be a black guy. Hello to Jessica. Good to see you, sister. And John, wonderful to see you. And Joe Dirt, hello. Art Acrobats, great to see you. Now, you have two white women that are definitely white. I don't know about the other woman. I don't know if she is what she identifies as. But these two white women, they should absolutely be like, you. What do you mean co-conspirator? Against who? Who are the bad guys in this story? What's the bad creation? What's the bad empire? I'm going to put you on the spot. No, they don't do that. What a surprise. They would lose their six-figure salaries. And this is an example of white women still benefiting from anti-whiteism. Still benefiting. And they will continue to benefit to some degree in positions like this. You'll see them as long as anti-whites feel that they still need anti-white white women to take down the white man, to take down the white family, to take down Western civilization.
we've seen this before and it not go well with Rachel Dolezal, I believe was her name. There was that.
Okay, so she's talking about Dolezal. And again, the conversation that should be had, that could be had to introduce the key concepts and other concepts of the Go Free method. A white person presenting and claiming to be non-white. Why would anybody want that trauma? Right? I mean, this happens so often. Why would anybody want to live that horror? But anti-whites are like, sweep that under the rug. Let's not talk about that.
Another person who tried to pretend like she was an Arab American. I believe we covered that, a Latina and a South Asian. It doesn't work well.
Yeah, that's right. And a certain senator as well that checked the box for being Native American. That
good memory.
That woman there, is she white?
Harvard Law.
Warren?
So to me, I was struck by Professor Kevin Nadal's comments about this, who's a psychology professor at City University of New York. And he said, it's such a privilege to be able to do this. It is a privilege to
a privilege to do this. What is she talking about?
To tell yourself that you are becoming a person of color or simply a different.
So the professor that she's
psychology professor at City University of New York, and he's
okay. That was one of the people in the article. It's a privilege to become non-white.
Said,
let's see where she goes.
It's such a privilege to be able to do this. It is a privilege to tell your.
Or I guess what she's trying to say is that you are privileged. If that's probably what she's trying to say. What do you all think?
Self that you are becoming a person of color or simply a different race, and it begs so many questions, all of the ones you guys brought up. And also, well, so what about the reverse then? Because it seems highly unlikely that someone.
Okay, that's what she's saying. So she just didn't construct the sentence properly. Only a privileged white person, just go ahead and say the rest of her sentence. Only a privileged white person who has everything going good for them, everything good, but for some strange reason they want to change their race. For some strange reason, even though everything is glorious, everything is handed to them on a silver platter, everything goes good for white people. For some strange reason, there are so many white people trying to white flight into being a non-white person. How does that make sense? It doesn't. Look at her here, her with the eyes. She's like, I'm trying to, she knows she's talking bullshit.
With the darker skin would be able to wake up and, hey, all of a sudden it's white, and therefore I have all the privileges as well.
All the privileges as well. Fox News. A.
So it seems like it's only going one way, that these people are enjoying. And to
okay, these people. So these people are white people. Now, if one of those white women said these people and was referring to non-white people or a non-white group, they would lose their job. So who has the privilege? Who has the power? Who's riding high? Who's living high on the hog, as we say down home? Who's living high on the hog? This is what our brothers and sisters need to hear. Somebody who's hearing my voice right now, you have the means. You have the intelligence. You have the looks. You have the power. You have the tenacity. You have the persistence. You have the connections. You have the money. Somebody listening to my voice, either live or in replay, knows that this is what the white masses need to hear, is what I'm saying, is what Team White Wellbeing is spreading. You need to get involved. This is the death of Western kind. We have to displace the faux resistance to anti-whiteism, as I articulated beautifully on Jason Goes Political many times, which we will bring back.
Me, it runs a real risk of fetishization, objectification of certain races as well, and it always goes to me in the female portion of it, and I think, when it becomes trendy to be a certain race.
Yeah, isn't that funny too? They're all saying what I said, what I concluded when I was 11, 12 years of age, that females, I was specifically, and she is specifically talking about white females. I was talking about white females. I discovered that they have this hyper fixation in general, not all, this hyper fixation with what the dominant hierarchical powers say is fashion, is de rigueur. They have this hyperfixation. So when it comes to hair, when it comes to makeup, when it comes to clothing, this hyperfixation, and when it comes to ideas. That's what I discovered. It was the white females. The guys, my guy friends, if you've read, is that a book? Okay, I have Crucible up right there. You can't see it on the screen. But this is the true story. My guy friends, when I started speaking out against anti-whiteism, they just chickened out and fled. And my best friend for all of elementary school left me. Still going to school there, wouldn't talk to me anymore out of fear of the reprisal for speaking out against anti-whiteism. But the white girls loathed me. They absolutely despised me for holding these unfashionable ideas. They knew the right way to respond to anyone pushing back against anti-whiteism was to hate them. And that's what they did. And I point out in the book, they spoke to me as if they knew my type. So how could that be? I'm 11 years old. I'm not a type. I wasn't old enough to have a history. So who has the history so that they could know the type? Fiction. That's where they've experienced it. That's real for them as it's real for all of us. So anybody saying these objections to anti-whiteism were automatically had this long history of butchering non-white people and wanting to butcher them and having a basement full of bodies or something. That's really what through their head. Even though I was 11 and they were 11. So here she's saying the same thing. Well, this problem is that these white females are very trendy. They want to get on to the next trend, Just like we're seeing this generation Zoomer, which interestingly enough rhymes with loser. This generation Zoomer, this massive percentage of them are claiming, massive percentage is claiming to be a different gender than their sex. And so they're saying, well, that's the trend. That's the trend, isn't it? Well, look at what these white females are doing now. They're all getting onto the trend of wanting to be another race. It's just a trendy thing. Fox News and conservatives will not point out that this is about the victimization of white people, that white people, children and adults, young adults are fleeing away from being white because everything about being white is wretched in the West. They're not going to talk about it. And that's where we have to put politicians on the spot. That's where we have to say to them, why aren't you talking about the victimization of white people? I guarantee you, across Fox News, politicians, Republicans, conservative content creators, they are all going to try to ignore the racial victimization of the white race on the basis of our birth. What does that tell you about your conservative content creators and your office holders? Conservatives or Republicans, whatever they are, independents. What does that tell you about them? They can see it. They're honestly going to lie. They are honestly going to lie to you and say, oh, it's just about being on the next trend.
And as right now, a certain direction that's going, that's really potentially problematic. And it has real issues for those that are born a certain way. And that is theirs.
So yeah, she might be of some Southern European heritage, or even as I look at her, a white person of one of the family line originating from one of the Central or South American countries. So here she is. I don't know if she identifies as white, but here she is potentially identifying as white and being just as anti-white as the other two white females on the set.
For someone else to think that they can try it on during their, free time and their downtime, what is Miyuki going to think about next? I think she's a little bored, and I think she's incredibly immature.
And Cheryl, there was that flashback to a Pew headline. Millions of Americans changed their...
Kaylee or whatever her name is. She's like nodding. And I think that one that was just talking is Emily.
Their racial or ethnic identity from one census to the next.
Well, because sometimes that benefits you, whether it's school or whether it's, take your pick. It can benefit you, let's be clear here. But
ooh, let's see how that plays out. A truth snuck in. Is this woman going to be allowed to continue working on Fox?
So I would like to be a $100 million yacht owner in St. Bart's.
Yeah.
Is that boom? Did I do that? Now you are.
Nobody agreed with her, you noticed.
Is that on that? I'm joining you.
Instead, turn it into a joke. I'm going to say something that contradicts anti-white narrative. It can be, in some rare situations, a benefit. Your life is otherwise shit, though, if you're non-white. But it can be a benefit in some cases. But now let me throw my joke in. That reminds me of my friend who ended up... read the book. Read the book. It all plays out. And it's inspirational if you haven't read it yet. You can get it at Amazon. You can get it at nowhiteguiltcollectibles.com with a signature.
Can I identify as
Is that cool? That's how I would like to identify.
Does your
Thank
name
you.
change too?
Yeah.
Look at Fowl doesn't seem to be smiling or thinking that's amusing that she said, let's be clear that there can be some benefits. They're not even going to give you that. They're not even going to let you say, even though all that preferential treatment, special privileges, freedom from responsibility, nah, they're not even going to let you have. There might be some. Actually, I can point to this program and 100,000 other programs that actively discriminate against white people for the benefit of non-white people.
A little French name might be kind of nice.
Cherie?
I share your new identity.
So they're all going to, I guess that's the end of it, because she was the last one to speak. It's all laughs here. Look at their faces. Would their faces be all laughs? I mean, look at Madam Harris, but she's loving it, isn't it? Isn't she? She's absolutely hilarious. Not a single thought for this Elise girl who is white, maybe blonde, from Ukraine, lives in Maryland, and has discovered, lives in Maryland. So she's not even, and people, conservatives will dissemble this sort of thing all the time because they don't want you to defend where we're being hit. We're being hit in the race, and they just want to talk about and defend abstractions. Just get your guard down like this. In boxing, you get your guard, get your elbows in tight so they can't hit your abstractions. That's where you're going to want to defend. But you're going to be taken in the face all day long until you're getting disfigured. That's what they want to do. So you have this white female, brand new from Ukraine, and she hates herself so much she's willing to white flight into being an Asian. What does that tell you about this land of milk and honey, this land of the brave? What about this land that's so hard on non-white people? White female shows up, child, 15 years old, and she's like, I want to be anything other than white. I'm just going to white flight into another race. Faulkner thinks it's fucking funny. Madam Faulkner thinks it's great. Not a single thought, along with this Kaylee whatever idiot beside her, airhead, thinks it's funny. Now, let me ask you something. And we don't do this like the conservative content creators do this, or the politicians, conservative politicians do it, where they show the what if. They do the what if. For them, that's the point. For us, it's a catalyst to get to the promulgation of the key concepts to change our fate. What if a black girl came here, black child came here from Kenya, dropped down into Maryland, and decided that the world was so awful for black people that she was a different race? Do you think they would think it's hilarious? Do you think they would think it's funny? Or do you think they would be talking about how much she must be burdened with, how much she must be going through, how much pain and tears? And they would probably have a picture on the screen of, wouldn't be of the actual girl from Kenya, but it would be like some stock photo of some black girl all alone in her bedroom crying. And then you would identify with that. How horrible is that? She's suffering. It would be horrible if the world were really like that, but it's not. It's the exact opposite. They would be talking about the psychological trauma that would lead a child to want to be a different race. But when it's a white girl from Ukraine, then she's bored. She's immature. She has white privilege. Sick. And these are, again, the pushback against anti-whiteism. It sure would be a shame if Fox News went totally out of business, or if their studios burned down, or if anything like that happened. It would be a shame, because then they wouldn't be able to continue propagandizing the white race this way as, we're your defense against what's happening. Let us continue to open your skull up and dig around in there with garden tools so that you can't think straight in your own defense. Don't let anybody you love watch Fox News.
I'm the yacht. That's all I want to know.
Yeah.
Shotgun.
All right. Well, the future of shopping based on your value.
Okay. That's that. What do you think of that? What do y'all think of that? I'll take a look at what you're saying, and then we'll take a quick look at Donald Trump And it's interesting. He's going to jail. We'll talk about it, though. Pop that off the screen. I think when I'm done here, I'm going to head up that staircase. I'm going to go hang out with Fourneau. It'd be great to see all of the white people that Fox just fired. Just fire them all. I've been saying that since high school. Get rid of all the white people in these different conservative news outlets. Just get rid of all of them. We should demand it. Rick Freedom, the guy who changed with the lexicon, the lexical and dialectical power of Go Free, brought a guy right over with ease, so much so that his wife was amazed. Guys out there, would you like your wife to be really amazed and happy and inspired with you, and inspired by you? You know, when guys start a relationship with a girl, at that time, in the vast majority of cases, she's impressed. She's inspired by him. I'm talking about, like, I'm not talking about anti-whites, right? Regular folk. And then over time, the guy stops being an inspiration. He stops being a winner. And then they wonder why the wife is not throwing off her clothes and leaping on him when he walks through the door. You have to continue being, you have to be a man of the West. That means you have to struggle for our people's well-being. That is the thing that makes a man of every group of people worthy of life. That's why you're here. You can tack everything else on after that. Rick says, God did not give us a spirit of fear, but of power and of love and a sound mind. Amen to that. Well written, brother. First last, saying hello to the great Clips who's in the house. Victorian saying he recounted that after he posted a video of him as a child opening presents at Christmas with his grandparents that he temporarily forgot that he claimed were black. Oh, no, really? Really? So Sargon of Akkad, not the real Sargon of Akkad, but the abstractionist Sargon of Akkad, content creator today, said that his grandparents were black, and then he recounted a story. He posted a video of him as a child opening presents at Christmas with his grandparents, and he temporarily forgot that he claimed they were black. So, are we talking, were both set of grandparents there, or did he specifically say, like, my father's parents were black, which would make the father black? But then he said, my father's parents were there at Christmas, and you look at them and you're like, whoa, there are two white people there. Is that what it was? Something like that? This should be like a big thing. How did I not hear about it? If that's... I forgot to mention, says Mestizo Carf, that when I ate at the small restaurant last Saturday, I saw a couple eating at the table next to us. Good-looking white guy with a non-white female as his date. Sad. Really sad. Yeah, I've never met a white guy that was able to get dates with white women, but chose non-white women. Never. Every single white guy that I've known, and of course here we say the truth, that people of different races can fall in love, and it not have anything to do with the white person hating themselves or feeling white guilt, what have you. But the vast majority of the time, it's going to be because of that. They're trying to white flight away. But all the white guys that I've known that date non-white females, either they were unable to get a date with a white female because no white females would have them, would date them just based on the presentation of their looks, because they were, too many of the white females were still holding out for the 8, 9s, and 10s until they were, mid 30s, early 30s, or whatever. It varies. And then deciding, I guess I'll settle for a peer pair with somebody who's actually on my level of looks. And so they end up going out and dating non-white women as a consequence. So white women, when you're out there and you see white guys doing that, just be aware that in the majority of cases, it's most likely, in my opinion, they're choosing non-white women because white women won't date them. Now, there are going to be some white guys, I've known some, who are just like not good folks, and they can get a date with a white woman, but then the white woman's like, no, I don't want anything to do with you. You're an awful person. And then because they're awful, they end up, and because they're awful, white women won't have them. And then they end up going and trying to get a woman in another community. That happens too. Stan the Man is with us, says the tan girl Emily, oh, is probably Italian. Okay. Could be Southern Italian. I dated an actual Italian girl in the past from Northern Italy and looked more like the one that was on screen last. Blonde hair, blue eyes. But yes, Southern Italy is different. Oh my God. So Victorian Time Traveler says, yes, really. So which one was it, Time Traveler? Is it that both sets of grandparents were present? Or was it, say, the father's grandparents were there and those were the ones that he had said were black, or the reverse? The mother's, parents were there and he had said those were black, but then they ended up being white. Which one was it? JK160 says, cool stairway. Thank you. Maximilian von Fock opened that door that was in the closet for me so that I could walk about the castle and then go visit those other places. Time travel. Well, it's sort of like time traveling because it happens instantly. Right on over to Fornol's castle or Yiz castle. Hello to everybody that's here. If I've missed you, let's take a quick look at. See if anybody has financially gifted. I don't want to miss anybody. Okay, we're good. We didn't miss anybody there. Sabatino, the great Sabatino, pointing out that these non-whites make millions, but it will never be enough. Exactly. Because there isn't, it's a storyline. There's never an enough. It's white people are the bad guys. Non-whites are always the long-suffering, wrongly put upon. You have to make amends to them. It's a story. That's one of the most powerful things for me that in my book Crucible, where I'm talking to my peers, and I realized that we're in a storyline and it doesn't change. And that's when I told them, I've shared here before, that the white kids there before us were the villains. We're here now, we're the villains, and all the white kids after us will be the villains. There's never making it up to them. And now all these years later, that school still exists. I can still drive by that school. The white kids in there now are the villains, exactly like I said. And this country is not one jot close to mollifying or reducing the claims. Now the claims of victimhood are bigger than they've ever been from the anti-whites, and the demands for compensation are bigger than they've ever been. So it is exactly as I said when I was 12 years old. And that's where we still are today. Red Dog is here. All right. Looks like we got a couple people over at Entropy, but no financial gifts. Could somebody write test in the live chat? I got to thank Slots. On Sunday, I asked for somebody to write test in the live chat on Entropy, and he was very Slotsian. He was there. So I appreciate it. I just want to make sure that it's, at least the chat feature is working. Looks like over here on D Live, we have the Great Spartan. And who doesn't love the Spartans, right? Just donated one ice cream cone of their cryptocurrency. So thank you very much for that. And looks like we are blank on Odyssey. Let's go ahead and take a look at Trump. I think I'll just read this rather than put it up on the screen. I'm better looking than the article anyhow. This is from The Guardian. Trump faces 4 criminal counts as 6 conspirators listed in January 6 indictment. As 6 co-conspirators. So they were all listed in these charges here. And I may or may not know who those people are. But if I do know, I won't say. Here's what you need to know. Trump faces 4 charges. The former president is accused of conspiring to defraud the United States government, conspiring to obstruct an official proceeding, conspiring against rights, and obstruction, and attempt to obstruct an official proceeding. So they charge other people. If you all don't know this already, well, I guess first of all, I can say everyone who gets in the way of anti-whiteism is subjected in various ways. Everyone until us is subjected in various ways, subjected to various strategies to reduce them to nothing, so they can't get in the way of the anti-white desire to victimize Western kind. One of the ways that's used is called lawfare. They will sue you. For example, they will file charges against you. And this, again, per another prediction come true, is growing because positions, it was inevitable. I saw it as inevitable, and indeed it happened, that where you have an ideology that unites people the way anti-whiteism does against a claimed victimizer, the white race. When they get into positions of power, they will bring other anti-whites into power. And so they end up proliferating through systems this way. There isn't an attempt or a substantial attempt to prevent this or push back to it. In fact, there's these claims now that I've really talked about a few years ago. And maybe one of you can remember what it was called. I think they gave a name to it, where they said if an organization is not openly the opposite of anti-whiteism, it will become anti-white. But they use different words. Well, I knew that a long time ago. And the reason why, and they're wrong. Even an organization, we've seen this numerous times. I pointed out at that time that we've seen this numerous times where organizations have started out that were genuine endeavors, openly oppositional to anti-whiteism on various levels and in various ways, and they still fell to the anti-whites. And the reason why I've talked about tonight is because the opposition to anti-whiteism is composed of selfish, individualistic people. There isn't a coherent ideology to combine them and push them back and push back against anti-whites. And so as a consequence, we have that here. We're creating that here with the concepts so that it can happen in the future. Sooner than later, we hope. But that's why they all fall. That's the reason. As a consequence, all of these nodes of power in society, whether it's wealth, media, government, end up being held by anti-whites. The positions are held by anti-whites. And that means that district attorneys are going to end up increasingly, as has ended up happening, those roles end up filled by anti-whites. It is a spiritual, a moral battle for them. And so they have no problem, because this is spirituality, this is morality, the anti-white moral imperative. They've got no problem trotting right over all of rules, rights, laws, etc. No problem. A conservative your basic conservative from Kentucky, say, or Montana as a prosecutor isn't going to, because he's a selfish individualist, he's not going to use his, and he doesn't have the morality that Go Free gives him, the moral imperative, the white positive moral imperative. He doesn't have it. So he's not going to take a look at the laws and say, I'm going to go beyond the law and be totally illegal. I'm in a position to be able to just have this prosecutorial discretion. I can do what I want. I'm going to go beyond the law and I'm going to crush these anti-whites. He's not going to do it. No, he'll say, oh, that's not the right thing to do, when really it's just for his selfish ass. And of course, he is vitiated by the fact that he doesn't have a white positive moral imperative to push back with, to say, this is my gravitational pull. This is what gives me the right to go beyond what is legal or what is ethical or whatever, what is fair. This gives me the right to go beyond it and to crush them. They won't do it. And so when you have selfish individualists who don't have a moral imperative that can contend with the opposition, and on the other side you have people with a moral imperative and a religious fervor, who's going to win? Well, it's obvious. So you end up with judges, you end up with prosecutors that are willing to break the law, that are willing to interpret law to mean whatever they want it to mean. It's 11:11. And so that's what you have with Donald Trump. Donald Trump has not ever openly said, we got to do this for white people, or it's awful what's happening to white people in this country. It's, look at the discrimination against white people. White people are beaten down. Look at, he doesn't care. He just gets in the way in various ways. And the primary way we've talked about a lot, which is that he inspires this incipient, this inchoate pride in white people in America and around the world. He inspires it by way of lip service, but he inspires it nonetheless. By way of his persona, he inspires it. And so that's why they want to destroy him. It has nothing to do with Iraq. It has nothing to do with any of these other claims. That's the reason. So they're able to take, and you can do this with law. You know, whether Donald Trump broke any of these laws, or he was able by way of these arguments to bend the law here, or the law doesn't apply by way of these arguments, all of this other stuff is totally immaterial, because they're going to be able to press charges by way of total illegality, by way of creative interpretations, by way of erroneous interpretations, and they're going to move forward. And they're moving forward with so many charges that it's almost guaranteed that he's going to go to jail. But he has said that he'll run from jail. And I think that he can, and we really need him to win from jail. He can win from jail. There's nothing to prevent that from happening, except another stolen election, which may or may not have happened. I wasn't there at all the different voting centers and polling stations and the rest. But barring that, and a gross theft, he'll be able to win from prison. And I think maybe he'll even have a boon from being locked down from the electorate. He can then pardon himself and leave prison. So let's take a look. Former president is accused of conspiring. 45-page indictment. Prosecutors laid out their case in stark detail, alleging Trump knowingly spread false allegations about fraud, convened false slates of electors, and attempted to block the certification of the election on January 6. The former president was determined to remain in power. Federal prosecutors said Trump was determined to remain in power. Prosecutors said that for 2 months after his election loss, Trump spread lies to create an intense national atmosphere of mistrust and anger, and erode public faith in the administration of the election. When talking about these things, it will be useful to show the contrast as a catalyst to spread the concepts. So the contrast being, for example, Obama Hillary, on, who said that the election was fraudulent when he won, and the first time he ran. You can share these, but make sure that's not the end of your point. It's to spread the lexicon. Let's see if there's anything else here. We got another. Yeah, we'll wrap it up. Special counsel wants a speedy trial. The other thing that's important is that these charges have gone before now a anti-white black female judge. I believe I have this right, who is she's radically anti-white. And she has, to my understanding, sent protesters from Patriot Day, don't call it J6 or anything else, Patriot Day, to prison for longer than the crime that they were said to have committed stipulated. So this is the kind of person they've gotten the judge to be ruling over this. Doesn't mean that it will stay that way, but you need to understand that that kind of thing is happening. I must emphasize that the indictment is only an allegation and that the defendant must be presumed innocent until proven guilty beyond a reasonable doubt. Of course, we're not talking about that anywhere. Trump is looking at a complicated calendar for 2024. The former president's trial in New York on criminal charges over hush money payments to, still talking about this, nothing illegal there, but they put it into the color of law. And for the general population, that's enough. His criminal trial in Florida for relating to national security documents at Mar-a-Lago property and obstructing the Justice Department's efforts to retrieve them will take place in May 24. The Iowa caucus opening salvo in the Republican race. He should not participate in any debates, is my suggestion. No one, he's it. The electorate wants Trump. He could only hurt himself going to any of these debates. Trump's indictments will not bar him from seeking the presidency again, nor will any conviction. So that's the important thing to know there. Let me take a look at the other story I have, and let's get a thank you to Rapunzel for getting me these two stories. Let's see here. Johnny Johnson's here. Great to see you, brother. He says, the EFF, third largest party in South Africa, parliament recently filled a stadium. Yeah, we talked about that earlier. So it's called the EFF in South Africa. Filled a stadium in South Africa with everyone chanting, "Kill the Boer, shoot to kill," calling for white erasure. No media coverage. Yeah. So, and they are, as I understand, in confederacy with the ANC. So this is the government of South Africa doing this. If Trump ran from prison, that would be gangster F. That would be enough to make me like him again, says Victorian time traveler. Yes. That's what I say. I think it will be a boon to him to run from prison. Please. I mean, the anti-whites smartly decided not to take a photo of him that would then end up being circulated and put on shirts and everything for his arrest and arraignment. But if he's in jail, so it might be for that reason that they end up dragging their feet about sentencing and all of this sort of thing, and even finishing up a trial. It is so obvious to interfere. It is so obviously interference in the election process, the peaceful transfer of power, all of this sort of thing. So America is gone. America's dead. None of us were born in America. Remember that. It was dead long before we were born. So these are just the forms that are left. This is the carcass that is left. Dai Shadal talking about anti-whiteism without quoting Jason, aka No White Guilt. Big props for proposing these concepts, sir. Thank you so much. I appreciate it. It's been a real battle. It's been a real battle. Patrick Cash is here. Hello and welcome. It's been a real battle over the years, so I appreciate it. Okay. And there is Rapunzel now. Hello to you, young lady. Spike Simmons is here. Hello. All right, let's check over here. We're gonna jump. We're gonna read a little bit of this. This is NBC as well. Grand jury accuses Trump of conspiring to defraud the United States. Former president revealed last month that he received a target letter from special counsel Jack Smith. Washington. Former President Donald Trump was indicted Tuesday on charges he conspired to defraud the country he used to lead and attempted to prevent the peaceful transfer of presidential power to Joe Biden. The purpose of the conspiracy was to overrun the legitimate results of the 2020 presidential election, legitimate results, by using knowingly false claims of election fraud to obstruct the government function by which those results are collected, counted, and certified. The indictment from special counsel Jack Smith's office says. The indictment marks a historic moment for a nation less than 250 years old. It's the first time a former president had faced criminal charges for trying to overturn the bedrock of democracy. A free and fair election. What horse shit. You, NBC, and all you anti-whites there. We're getting fed up, and we have the concepts to take it all back. While Trump's failure to reverse his defeat was a credit to the guardrails of that democracy, the ability to prosecute him may renew the stress test on the constitutional design. Yeah, I guess that means that they're going to say, we're worried that people who intentionally or unintentionally push back against anti-whiteism might get really upset. And there will be a need then for us to go beyond the Constitution to do what needs to be done to preserve the Constitution. Watch. The allegation that Trump used dishonesty, fraud, and deceit to subvert the 2020 election with pervasive and destabilizing lies about election fraud come after a sprawling investigation that included testimony from dozens of White House aides and advisors ranging in seniority up to former President and traitor Mike Pence. I despise that guy. What a loser. He's been a loser his entire time in office. He's a loser today, and he'll continue being a loser. I hate his effeminate way that he talks. I hate how feminine he is. You know, if Trump had picked me as vice president, what do you think would have happened on election day? I hope Trump has learned. Don't surround yourself with ladies of both sexes. Don't do it. You're going to have to get men in there. You're going to have to get men in there that are hardcore, solid, that are going to fight to the end. Fire all of these losers. Tell your daughter to go tell it to the ocean. Tell your wife to go tell it to the ocean. No more female influence. Let's see. We'll see who he picks as vice president, though. That could tell us a bit about where he's going. If he picks another person that can easily fold, well, the indictment accuses Trump of taking part in 3 criminal conspiracies. I think if you're not getting it, you really should. I mean, this is like talking, these are like charges they bring against mafia dons. I mean, this is like, these are hardcore, and they're intended, the charges, and not necessarily this case, but speaking generally, to cripple you psychologically, to cripple you financially. The outcome of whether or not do you get released, or do the charges eventually dropped, or all of that is immaterial. They'll just bring up new charges if they need to cripple you some more. It is about the time it consumes of the bandwidth in your head, the concern about how it's going to play out, the concern about the people that you have put in charge of making sure it turns out good. Are they really on the ball? Do they know enough? Are they doing the right thing? Have they been rolled over? Like they're trying to roll over these other people that they have indicted, the co-conspirators. They're just going to go to them and they're going to say, well, we'll put you in jail for the next 100. You'll never see the light of day again. But all you have to do is say that, yes, Trump said this awful thing or that awful thing. How many of these folks do you think are going to be diehards? How many of these folks do you think are going to say, I want to give up the life that I'm living, of wealth, of whatever it might be for these particular individuals? Maybe they're in the public eye as well. How many of them are going to say, or they're going to just go ahead and say, well, everybody's against Trump, I guess I'll go in. Now, why are they able to say that? Why is that the calculation? Because the resistance to anti-whiteism is composed of selfish individualism. If the resistance to anti-whiteism was composed of a people motivated by a white positive moral imperative to finish the victimization of Western kind, it can't be, folks, it cannot be the moral imperative of some religion or this version of Christianity or that version of Christianity. It cannot be that, because Christianity has already been defeated by anti-whiteism. Christianity is also subject to the infinite interpretations, and the totality of worshipers in Christianity is replete with people who are anti-white before they are Christians. And we know that to be true. So it cannot be like a Christian or a service to Christ moral imperative. It's got to be a white positive moral imperative that demands an end to the victimization of Western kind, that focuses on our victimization, that says enough is enough, nothing is going to get in my way of stopping the victimization. White people are atheists, they're Catholics, they're Baptists, they're Mormons, they're agnostics. They don't care about religion or belief or not believing at all. They're into sports, they're into hunting, they like this team and they hate that team, and white people are all over the place. The only thing that unites us is that we are all Westmen. We are all the target of anti-whiteism. We have to come together to put an end to our victimization. End of story. If these politicians, if these people, maybe who are the co-conspirators, had to consider the blowback from a white positive moral imperative, a population motivated that way, a movement motivated that way, if they had to consider what that blowback might look like, firing from their job, and maybe people who don't have power in the world and who will go out and extract their revenge in some physical way, if they had to consider that blowback, then at least we would have a fighting chance. But you don't have that. You have people who are going to be thinking about their own ass and how long are they going to spend in jail or not spend in jail. This government, all the governments that run the West, are as corrupt as any corrupt government in any period in history now. They will wrap you up and put you away forever, and they don't care. They will go to your house. Back in the 80s, they will go to your house and put a bullet through your infant baby's head that then progresses through the baby and then through the chest wall and the heart of your wife who's holding your infant baby. And they don't even bat an eye doing it. Just because you object, just because you push back. They will go and burn down an entire church of crazies because they're not complying. This is the mentality. You're not going to be able to resist. Think about how, when you really understand this, think about how pathetic and how impossible the resistance is composed of this. Selfish individuals who want to push back with owning moments, owning the woke on their yardstick. That is, our situation is worse than being a 6-year-old, emaciated, starved, dehydrated, and chained to a bed by some pedophile, full-grown adult. Our situation is worse than that. But we have the keys here. We have the keys to the recapture of our destiny. He's due to be arraigned on the charges on Thursday. So it just came down today, due to be arraigned on Thursday. My office will seek speedy trial so that our evidence can be tested in court and judged by a jury of citizens, Smith said after the indictment was made public. Smith pointed to the law enforcement who defended the Capitol on Patriots' Day in unveiling the indictment. So January 6th, NBC is calling it Jan 6. Why in God's name are even the snarky people in the white sympathetic sphere calling it the same name that the anti-whites in the regime's media call it? Why? Patriots' Day. In unveiling the indictment, calling them heroes and patriots, the police that defended the Capitol. And I guess some of them in the videos that we saw, if those videos were true, were escorting protesters into the Capitol. It was an interesting dichotomy. Some fighting protesters, some appeared to be bringing them in. They did not just defend a building with people sheltering in it, Smith said. They put their lives on the line to defend who we are as a country. And here's just this purple prose, this like highfalutin language. Defend us as a country and as a people. They defended the very institutions and principles that define the United States. All speciousness, all unscrupulous, unctuous language for deception, for dissimulation, to mislead, to rewrite what actually took place. If they have their way, in the very near future, there will be people elected to office who will speak in this stentorian way with grandiloquence at the lectern about Patriots' Day and how this swarm of evil tried to take down democracy in America. The indictment was handed down 2 weeks after Trump announced that he'd been notified he received a target letter in the probe led by special counsel Jack Smith, who brought charges against the former president last month in a separate case over Trump's handling of classified documents after leaving office. Trump called the indictment fake in a post on his social media website shortly before news in the filing was made public. Why didn't they do this 2.5 years ago? Why did they wait so long? Because they wanted to put it right in the middle of my campaign. Prosecutorial misconduct. His Truth Social post said. Trump, of course, has repeatedly denied any wrongdoing over his actions, blasting Smith as corrupt and labeling the investigation as election interference. Launched his 24 presidential bid in November after the Justice Department had already been investigating his ties to the violence that took place at the U.S. Capitol during Jan 6. Don't call it Jan 6. God damn. I mean, it's easy. Like, you can't, if you're in a position where you feel like I can't be too bothered to, you know, if I call it Patriots Day, someone might not know what I'm saying. Tell them. And you tell them like you know something they don't know. Right? You say, oh yeah, this happened on Patriots Day. And then they say, Patriots Day? Oh, you probably call it Jan 6. Well, that's what the anti-white leftists call it. We call it Patriots Day. That's how you can say it. The indictment says the conspiracy started 2020 election. It does not name Trump's co-conspirators, but identifies 4 as attorneys and 1 as a Justice Department official and the 6th a political consultant. The person named as co-conspirator 1 appears to be Rudy Giuliani, based on previous testimony and other records. I think Giuliani might go to jail instead of roll on Trump, but I don't know about the others. All right. I guess that's about enough we need to see for now. You understand. Trump is, the odds are high that they are going to be able to convict him on any number of these, immaterial of his actions. If they're close enough, if they can be interpreted, if they cross the line, but the law is always crossed by both sides, political parties, and it's always ignored, and it's even recently ignored, they'll still file it against him because they are unscrupulous in their service to the anti-white moral imperative. The law weighs less or is less important than the anti-white moral imperative in their hearts. So he'll probably end up in jail, or the odds are high that he will end up in jail. He knows this. The question is he going to keep himself focused on himself? Is he aware that at this point it doesn't matter if he capitulates in whether or not they will go after his family as well in the future for this or that thing and use lawfare against them as well? He's like 77 or so. He should just, it was like Saddam Hussein. Look at how Saddam Hussein was found. They found him, this so-called, great leader of Iraq. He never was. He presented himself as this great leader, this great warrior of his people. That's how he should have gone out. He looked like King Joey Buttafuoco coming up out of this rat hole. I mean, could you imagine? That's what this supposedly great leader and warrior. I said what he should have done, and I still say what he should have done is, if he was the great warrior, if he's going to die, they're going to kill him anyhow. The whole might of the United States and all of the West arrayed against him. He might as well load up the entire military, his entire military. What did he have? The 3rd largest tank division in the divisions in the world. And he just should have driven them straight at the Allied lines. And he should have been riding in one of those tanks. That's what he should have done. But he wasn't a man. He wasn't like our men at Sparta. He wasn't like our warriors at so many of these other conflicts that we've been in. Insurmountable odds. It's one of the things that make us truly great as a people. The problem is that Trump is a businessman, but I hope that maybe in his old age, he's finally getting it, and he'll go ahead. If his wife and his wives, ex-wives and daughters and all, they get to him and they're like, but just think of the babies, just think of us, just think of everybody else, he'll can roll, he'll capitulate. So I hope he won't listen to them. See, that's why men need to be in charge of the West. That's why women have a role to play, men have a role to play. They are puzzle pieces that work together. Women cannot have a voice in the direction of the people. They just simply cannot, for that very reason. If Leonidas at Sparta had allowed his wife, the queen, to have his ear and influence what he was going to do, and if this had been generational, where women had had the influence over authority, he would have been persuaded to stay at home. And Aryan Greece, or whatever you want to call it, would have fallen to the Middle East. It was in large part that we are here today because he went up against certain death and went and stood in that gap. Not only did two things, held up the Persian invasion for several days, actually more than just the days that it took to fight the conflict, because of how everything got backed up, but also signaled to the totality of that invasion that these are tough motherfuckers and this is not going to go well for you. That, trust me, when you show up with hundreds of thousands of soldiers and 300 stand in your way, you're thinking, these are a problem. These people are very proud, very heroic. They're going to go to the end. Is it worth it? But if they had listened to the women, they would have stayed home and they would have tried to make friends. They would have accepted the tyranny for a little bit of warmth and safety for today, because that's what's normal for a woman. And it's a beautiful thing because it's supposed to be directed at bringing up babies, in my opinion. That idea is not supposed to have any influence. That push, that drive is not supposed to have any influence over what's done societally. If Trump suddenly has the spirit of the West speak to him and he decides to not listen to the females in his family, then he'll go down fighting every bit of the way. He'll say, you can go after my family. You can go after my children. You can go after my grandchildren. This is what he should say. I know you will, because you're unscrupulous bastards. But I'm going to fight you to the very end. I'm going to use every weapon I have against you. I've said before, don't get into these positions. Don't take these positions where you have to defend the people, if you can't do what needs to be done when what is called on you in that position finally meets you dead in the face on some day out in the future. If you can't do it, go flip burgers. Don't be a general. Don't be a president. Don't be a senator. Don't be a congressman. If you can't fight to the very end, go flip burgers. You get no sympathy from me. None whatsoever. I've had people over all these years, they say to me, but Jason, what about their wives? What about their families? I don't give a fuck about them. They are there to fight for all of us. They're that immediate few around them cannot be valued more than the totality, or we would never have a people. There wouldn't be a Western kind today. if that's the way it always was. Every invasion would have been met with capitulation. Every attempt to conquer us, every attempt to defeat the good and the noble and the just would have been met with placation. What can we do for you? How can we get on our back? I'm only worried that what we saw while he was president was a businessman. That was what I was worried about all along. And he ended up listening to a bunch of women. And he took half steps, half measures as a consequence. He took this tone to make amends, to walk away. This is what the females around him convinced him of. And now look at this. How did placation work for him? Exactly the way a female intends for it to work, just for today. He got a couple more years of freedom, just for today. And then what will happen with this? The women will be in his ear. Capitulate. Couple more days. Give up for a little bit more warmth. Give up for a little bit more freedom of yourself to just be able to wander the world. Give up a little bit more. That's all it is. Always and ever with females. Most of them, anyhow. So that's my only worry when it comes to Trump. He's saying he's going to run from jail right now. Let's hope it stays that way. I definitely am not wanting to hear the speech about I've got to do what's good for the country. There are other competent people who can run for office in the Republican Party. There are good people that can run for office. I've got to do what's good for the country. It's tearing us apart. Because you'll know exactly where it's coming from. Took a final look. All right, didn't miss anything on entropy. Sparta writes over here on DLive, Trump is the avatar for white America. That is why they want to humiliate him. Absolutely. Very well written. Wing It over here on Odyssey writes, I can't, you say had a something today. What is that you wrote there? But he says, the white people in the room thanked me afterward, but none had my back. So obviously in some sort of contest, well done. Of course, they didn't this time, but you continue pushing the white positive moral imperative and more will stand up. Well done. Thank you for being the hero in that moment for all of us. All right. Let's make sure I didn't miss anybody here. I'll take a look at the live chat. I think we've been a little bit long to read any of the thread comments. Yeah, we just got over 3 hours. We have Frieza writing over here with $10 over on Cash App. Thank you so much for the financial gift. Writes, thank you for being a Chad. The ultimate of Chads, my friend. The ultimate. Thank you. I appreciate that. Very much. That's a cool. Thank you for being a Chad. I appreciate it. And we have Western Kind United says with $3 financial gift. Thank you for that. Says for white well-being, truth does not fear examination. Well written and true. Thank you, brother. I like this. Frieza, thank you for being a Chad. All right, let me scroll to the top of what I can see in the live chat, and then we will get out of here for today. Maybe we'll come back with a roll-in later this week, and maybe I'll reach out to White Student Transmission and bring him on to talk about his book. See if we can make that happen. Red Dog says, I love the focus on the mission on this show. Entertainment is nice, but this is dense with strategic essentials. That's a great testimonial. Thank you for that. Make sure you share that in other communities, other circles. I appreciate it. All right. Oh, there are squirrels in the chat. Northwest says, Jason for president. Thank you so much for that. I appreciate it. I will definitely be Trump's running mate. If he asks, I will run with him. But in all seriousness, he would be smart to bring me on to a team of strategists, because he would have done a lot better before had I been there. All right. All right. I think that's about it. Ash is here. Great to see you. Hello to everybody or anybody that I missed as I'm sliding through the glorious chat. I guess one final thing, talking about strategy, that I'll leave with you all. When it comes to what's happening in South Africa right now in this EFF in the stadium, thousands and tens of thousands of them, I guess, look like in that stadium. When it comes to them in that video, if you have the video to share, you can use the word genocide and have it benefit you. If you don't have the video to share, the word genocide will undermine you. In South Africa, the word genocide is going to undermine you. Outside of South Africa, if you have the video, you can use the word genocide. If you don't have the video, then use white erasure. And then you can talk about the atrocities being committed against the white population. So I'm telling you how to avoid a pitfall when you're trying to convince people to oppose anti-whiteism, and then also to make use of it as a tool when you can pair it with the video. When you pair it with the video, you won't invoke in your audience mind the harm inflicted on non-white people by white people. That's one of the biggest problems. And then also, of course, the fact that what they understand genocide to be. So if there's a government party that's chanting and saying, kill the white people, then you can absolutely say, look, this is the government. You can legitimately call this the government. If there's some sort of coalition of ANC and EFF in government, then this is the government, and they're chanting in a crazed way to kill the white people. So it's not something you can just dismiss. Now, in South Africa, it won't work for the same reason why using it in America right now, or Canada, or Finland won't work. Because your audience, one or more, will say, like if you were in South Africa, they'll say, we're not being rounded up. Yeah, there are crimes being committed, but there aren't camps. There isn't, I go to work every day. I go to a grocery store every day. Sure, there are things that can be fixed, but now you've lost me. Now I can't hear what you have to say. Now I think you're crazy. So instead, if you're in South Africa, you talk about white erasure and look at what the government is going to do to it. This is the ultimate white erasure. They're saying they're going to kill us all. So you leave them with that they can't deny. And the whole point of the conversation is not because you are wedded to the use of specific, like a word like genocide that harms you, or wedded to the idea of starting a political party or something like that. The purpose of the communication is to convince and persuade your audience to object to the victimization of our people. Remember that. That's the goal. Not starting a party, not a violent resistance, not any of these other things. That's not a bad idea there, Johnny Johnson. Not tonight, but that's not a bad idea at all. I don't know if we did it every show, it might lose its punch, like the real meaning that we're giving it. But yeah, that's a good idea. All right. And with that, probably see you later this week. And turn this down a little bit. Oh, Brian's saying there's something on entropy. Oh no, I see nothing. Let me go to the, thank you for mentioning that. Let me go to the dashboard. And see if I can see it there. No. Nothing is here on my dashboard, and nothing is here on the donation widget. You said on entropy, yeah? Nothing. No data. Refresh it. Well, what we'll do is, if it comes up, I will read it the next time that we are all together. Yeah, nothing. Not anywhere that I can find. Sorry about that, Brian. We will, if it shows up, then we'll read it next time we're together. And if it's like bounced back to you, next time you're in the live chat, tag me and let me know. And we'll take care of it. Let me check over here just in case you meant over here. No, okay. Unfortunately, you know, entropy is going through a bit of a transition. I think they're scaling down a little bit, and we just have to be on top of them when things are not working properly. But all right. I hope you found something worthwhile to go into your lives with over the next couple of days and make a big difference in the world, because that hourglass is running out of sand. If we don't push back and spread the concepts far and wide enough in time, which we're getting there. If we don't do it in time, boy, everywhere is going to look like South Africa. Let's stop that from happening. Roll out.